Hi, everybody. It's Life and Vibe. Oh, my goodness. You know what? I didn't even think to change my banner. Let me hide my ticker real fast and fix that. I think I'm at, what is it, 23 days until trial? Is that right? Is it 23 or 22? How many days until the 12th, 13th of August? Anyway, and we're over 4,000 subscribers. And so I just want to thank everybody so much for having joined the community. I'm telling you, thank you for waiting. We are going to be finding out some really fun stuff today, guys. I promise you. I've done, it's part of the reason why I'm running a second late. It's been I tell you, it's been a wild ride. I've been getting a lot of emails, some really strange, some totally legitimate, just some really strange stuff going on. Oh, can you hear me? Sorry, I didn't realize that my mic was sitting kind of next to me. Hey, hi. Oh my goodness. So hit the like. Sorry, this tells you how much work I've done. Let me turn my fan off. You can see my fan going. Oh, actually, I want the fan off, but the light on. Okay, there we go. Oh, okay. Goodness me. Sorry about that. Like I said, I've had just interesting information. I think you're gonna be very interested in all the different things that I have found today. I don't know if we're gonna be able to get everything into one show. Otherwise, we'd be here for 4 hours. Hey, when's it? Oh, Tim. Oh, I'm probably going to do a members only for Tim. So look out for that. But this is obviously something that's come along. This is a way more. Tim is dying. So members only is probably when we'll probably do Tim, and then once in a blue moon, probably every week or so, because I'm going to start covering some newer people that I found that have far more interesting backgrounds. The channel is expanding, guys. I just want to thank everybody. So we're going to be covering lots of people. I needed to make sure that I updated all my tags in this because this is going to be a big true crime. And of course, I got absolutely super busy today. So I haven't been able to, because just finding out all this research, wanting to make sure that I've got everything with receipt because you know how it goes around here, guys. If we don't actually have good, solid evidence, we are not going to bring this on this channel. As much as people want to say we are shaming people, I think that people, I'm going to come out with a disclosure real quick. Is it 23 days to trial? Can somebody correct me? I had to take my phone off, so I didn't have that weird thing that happens with everything. Yeah, well, we're gonna do Tim. We're going to do Tim as a members only. So all my Tim folks, look out! I promise you. How about tomorrow? No, not tomorrow because I'm working tomorrow. Thursday. Let me know in the members. Let me know if you'd rather have Thursday or Friday, or it doesn't matter. And we will do members only ad-free lives anytime you're a member of the Good Life community. And we will cover Tim. Everything about Tim. We'll just go Tim. So we'll find out over today and tomorrow what is the most. I should probably take a poll. So let me try to set that out. But nobody else cares about Tim here. They're here to find out more information, I think, about Ray George Krebs and what is going on in Kentucky. This is really like a good true crime investigates. And I did want to thank everybody who is a new member of the channel because you have been helping us just grow and get this message out. And I just can't thank you guys enough because you guys have been awesome. And so it's just always great to be able to meet people new coming into the community. And like I said, for those of you I know who love the Tim, we haven't forgotten Tim. Don't worry. It's just Tim has not been very interesting. I mean, even Tim is struggling with what to say about Tim. So it's interesting to have Tim himself not be able to figure out what to say. But there's a couple of things I do want to say before we truly get started. And one is just the protection of everybody's mental. Oh, let me put that back out. Everybody's mental health around here, in the respect that obviously, the topics we cover, these are going to be around true crime and investigative reports and certain types of behaviors that some people might find to be deviant. And so I think that everybody is going to just, need to be, cautioning, and then others who've maybe been victims of crimes themselves, just make sure that you please protect your mental health at all times. That is very important to me. So I just want to make sure that everybody does know that. So that is very important. And again, anything that I do show, and we're not even doing reacts today, guys. I just have so much evidence to get through today around Offended Outcast and his narrative, that obviously we're not really probably showing any videos. I know Jeb had a video out. Oh my gosh, that's going to be a whole nother video, guys. The thing about Jeb, though, we do have a Jeb reveal at the end of this live stream. So I do have a Jeb reveal that I think people are also, there's going to be a lot. So just hold on to your horses. Give us a like, just so that people know we've gone live, because I did not have time to announce it on my posts. As you can tell, you can probably see, by just looking a little bit wet. Yeah. Session news and podcast. Can you see me? Oh, okay. So yeah, you guys chat away, but you're also the stars of my show. So I'm kind of moderating. I don't know. Sometimes, and anybody who, over time has interest in joining the moderating team, it's a free and unpaid. I wish, and over time, I hope that changes. But at the moment, we're just offering opportunities if you have an interest in these types of things. My role, I am a registered nurse. I have a Bachelor of Science here in the United States. I think most of my audience knows this, but anybody who's new to my channel, let me slow down. I am a registered nurse. I do hold my Bachelor of Science in Nursing here in the United States. I have completed most of my graduate studies, training to be a nurse educator. I also focused on psychiatric mental health nursing and training as a nurse practitioner in that field. I'm just missing my clinical components at that time, so I'm pretty much most of the way through that. I do things for educational purposes, obviously protecting vulnerable seniors, protecting children, and a role as a mandated reporter, and obviously always trying to ensure that the information that I share with everybody here is accurate, because it's like a game of telephone. Things have been said and there's a lot of untruths. So I'm hoping today that we can clarify. We really are going to be focusing on everybody that really are the adult players in this and should have known better in this situation. And we are certainly not going to be victim shaming, and we are not going to be victim blaming on this channel, because that narrative has been really something disturbing in my mind, that I've been seeing a lot of. I do want to say up to, before, I drop all my receipts, there's one thing I want to make really crystal clear right out the gate. Okay. And I did have a script that I'm going to read because I want to make sure I get this right. This stream is not about shaming anyone's private life. As much as I get criticized, that's not the purpose of this. Okay. Anybody's orientation, sexual orientation, because we will be covering that today, or what they choose to do behind closed doors as consenting adults. Okay. Frankly, I really don't care. That's their business. I don't care what people do behind closed doors. I don't care if they even do it outdoors. Do you know what I mean? I don't care. I don't feel offense. Not find it offensive. If they want to have their own TV programming, if it's mixed and regular, I don't care. Okay. I used to go to gay clubs in London all the time. So I just don't care. Okay. So that's not what this is about. Okay. I want to make that crystal clear. What this stream is about is strictly about the structural fraud and the narrative manipulation and financial deception that was carried out by Raymond George Krebs on his YouTube subscribers, audience, channel members, anyone who sent him money and gift cards, any of those folks. That is who I am trying to focus this about. So all that other stuff is not what this is, but it's going to come out because it's part of the narrative, okay? And part of how this whole situation and, who Raymond's grief is actually about. And it's not the wife, okay? You're going to see all the receipts today, guys. The channel Offended Outcast has built his entire platform and solicited financial donations, as you know, thanks buttons, super chats, gifts, and a lot from a very Christian, faith-based community. And he's been, selling and tailoring this sort of grieving country widow persona. The previous vet, I think somebody's even said that he might have a Checker vet out there. That's just a rumor from Jeb out there. We don't have receipts of that. That's just what somebody else is saying on their channel. This channel has receipts, okay? So, and whose beloved wife tragically died years ago following a car accident. And I think a lot of people know she had the car accident, but I think there's a lot of things about when she potentially passed away, whether she's still alive. And so we're going to settle that. Now, I do have to clean up a couple of documents because I do not want to dox people's home addresses. So as we take a look at stuff, I'm just going to have to do something real quick because I do not want to do that. But I do want to, what I'll do is I'll share a screenshot. And when I'm doing that, I'll just make sure I get rid of quickly on a PDF everybody's addresses, because I do not want this person's address doxed. Okay. And so I will not be sharing the live websites in order not to do that. Okay. So what I'm about to share is going to be using official state registries. We're going to be looking at the 2009 Supreme Court case file. We're going to be looking at a very, I don't believe anybody has found this hidden 2025 obituary. I haven't seen it. And so it's going to connect some pieces together and about how the timeline that Krebs had is a complete, absolute lie. So anybody, and he's now turned his comments off in his comment section. So we'll take a look at that on his latest video. And I don't even think we'll have time today. I have screenshots that we can bring up and share that he had left just before the channel's comments were turned off. So he's obviously really covering his circles over here. So he has completely invented his backstory. So another channel also has verified that they have confirmed through the same National Personnel Records Center that they went through the same. This is somebody who's a PI, went to the exact same government agency that I did days ago to get the letter, as we know on this channel, from the government saying he never had a military record. Now, I bet you anybody else here could, especially if you've ever served or had a family member serve, you could go ahead and do a FOIA. That's a Freedom of Information Act request as a researcher and obtain that information. It will literally just check the records, and records show he never served in the military. So he's erased the backstory about how he earned his living, how about the spouse, about a deceased partner's death. It's because he knew that the audience wouldn't accept the truth. And it's not that Mr. Krebs isn't genuinely grieving the loss of a loved one, but I don't think it's the loved one that people potentially imagine. And this is just because of when his channel started, the fact that his, the things with the wife. So it's just, and I don't think there's anything shameful about it. And it was revealed all in the court records. And it sort of meets the timeline of when Raymond started his channel and talked about feeling lonely. And I don't think he was lying. So we're going to look at all that paperwork today, and we're going to let all the receipts do all the talking. And so I'm going to take a look first at the first thing. Okay, so I just want to make sure that's clear. Sorry, was trying to not sound like a robot, but I just want to make sure that's very, very clear. Yeah. Own Jebs. Yeah. Well, I already know things about Jeb. Okay, guys. I've got a lot of information to share. Okay. So let's take a look at the Offended Outcast. Okay. Now he had some videos on his channel recently, where he has taken off his comments. I'll just share this real fast. Oh, let me not play that. Here. So his comments are turned off. Now I have saved some of the comments that he had made saying he was going to be releasing another video in a day or two. And then I guess he turned the comments off. So obviously things have changed as more things have come to light. He's obviously doing this, but I don't think he wants to take the channel down quite yet. Because obviously he's still getting monetization. He said he did not monetize this video. I think I had in one of his actual comments. And so we can always take a look at Social Blade and see if he really did monetize it. But that's going to kind of take us away from today and kind of what we're looking at today. Specifically, there's more to come. I promise you. It's been quite the rabbit hole. And I really don't want to get into such a rabbit hole. So if you do enjoy getting down the rabbit hole with me, guys, yeah, just hit the likes. I'm sorry if I'm not getting to all the comments today, just because I really do want to keep the stream going. And so, hey, Catherine, I'm so glad you're here. Catherine's one of our wonderful moderators. We also have Angela Glass. Hey, Anne, if you're ever interested in being a moderator, let me know. Catherine probably needs some support at sometimes, because I have a lot of people that do not enjoy women in the true crime investigative space. And so I have a lot of people thinking registered nurses should not have an opinion or a voice, that women certainly shouldn't have a voice. And if you take a look at this whole entire narrative being created around Mr. Krebs, I am the only female who is making any content and obviously thinking about the victim and so forth, and not shaming a 14-year-old child without really looking at a much bigger psychological picture of what Mr. Krebs has been up to before they just open their mouths. And I found that narrative really dangerous from some of the channels. And so that's not what we're here to do today. So if anybody enjoys trying to blame a child for a grown man's actions, because Mr. Krebs, and it's in his court case. So let me bring up just a little bit about what he did first. Okay, because we'll bring up the court case too, and I'm going to have that on the side, and I'm going to refer to certain parts of that court case in order for you to kind of see what's going on. Okay, so the first thing I think we kind of should take a look at, okay, is that he came out onto his channel. If a lot of you remember, he talked about, being a lonely widow, and he was so sad. Oh my God, this channel. Oh, very strange. Go back. That was a strange one. Oh, it's because I was a member at some point. Okay. So if I put in the word lonely, I think he had this quite a lot of times going back. If we look back at his channel, seniors living alone, and then I think it's just he spoke a lot about just everything about being alone and not having everybody, why he sold everything and started over, the truth I didn't see him coming, the forgotten grief of growing old without family, and just a lot of these different things. Obviously very emotive for people. A lot of people are going to think, yes, that's me. And I'm not saying that Mr. Krebs did not feel alone at all, because I do believe that Ray was feeling quite alone. And so I'm gonna bring this image up real fast. Let me find this image. Let me see if I have it as an image file real fast. Actually, I might have had it as a pages. Hold on. Oh, let me see if I can open this as a PDF. Hold on. Like I said, I've been so busy doing research today, so sometimes I haven't been able to get everything ready for the world of this stuff. Let me see if I can actually just put it on my my miscellaneous or something. Okay. All right. Let me bring this up first. Okay. Okay. Because what we're going to look at is actually, let me see. Can I get that? Okay. I'm going to have to change that. Hold on, guys. Let me play a little bit of that video of him talking about being alone for just a second. I said I was in the no reactions just so I can get this ready and not completely kill the stream. Lonely. Where was the one where he said living alone versus being alone? I wanted to play that one. Over 60 and doing it alone, how I handle stress and big changes. Okay, so this is a very recent one. Quiet strength of growing old alone. Oh, here we go. The one income shock nobody warned you about, living alone after losing a spouse. Oh, this is perfect. So let me play that for just a moment. Hold on, Mr. Ray. And oh, he's put the dog there. Always, I have dogs. I know. But obviously that's going to get, he really knows how to set the scene, guys.
Good morning, friends and neighbors. I'm glad you're here today. Well, I thought we'd sit down and talk about something. Good morning. That very few people are willing to really talk about honestly. But millions of us Americans are quietly living through it. And that's what I call the one income shock. You see, when people talk about retirement, they always try to paint a picture that looks something like this. 2 people, 2 Social Security checks or 2 incomes, a paid off home, maybe a pension, and a quiet little life together. That's the picture. But real life doesn't always follow the brochure. Sometimes one of those people dies. Sometimes a spouse gets sick. Sometimes disability takes someone out of the workforce first. And sometimes life just changes the plan. And suddenly what used to be 2 incomes keeping a household afloat becomes 1 income trying to carry the entire weight of life.
All right, Ray. Now, if you had been listening to this on your, at your home, what would you have thought at the time listening to this from Mr. Krebs? Would you think that Mr. Krebs was a widower? Or would you think that Mr. Krebs was just talking about anybody's situation at this time? Just, kind of considering that. What would you consider at that time? Which is he doing? So we're going to play him for just a second longer, and then we're going to show all the different receipts. Obviously, I'm going to really show definitively that Renee Krebs is not deceased.
And nobody warns you how shocking that moment can be. Not emotionally. Emotionally, you already know that it's devastating. But what people don't prepare you for is the math. The math is what hits you like a freight train. Welcome back to Offended Outcast. If you're new to the channel, take a moment to subscribe. It'd really help out. You see, when a spouse dies, something very strange happens financially. Well, your income gets cut, but your bills don't. The mortgage is still there. The property taxes are still there. The insurance is still there. And utilities don't magically get cut in half. But most of the expenses of life stay almost exactly the same. Yet suddenly, one of those checks disappear. And that moment, that realization, is what I call financial shell shock. Because overnight, you go from managing a household to trying to survive it. And when reality arrives, that's the moment when the panic begins. They sit at the kitchen table with a pile of bills, and they start doing the math. And they realize something that retirement planners rarely say out loud.
I think he's reading from a script, don't you? Hey, Angel. I think he's reading from a script. You can see his eyes going back and forth. Like, I'm trying to fix these documents so I don't dox them. So he's definitely reading from a script, guys. This is, living alone, spouse is dead. Okay, keep lying, Ray. Is this you or just people in general? Because I don't think this is, the spouse. Because he did lose somebody very significant, but this is not the person.
The system was built assuming 2 incomes. 2 income checks or 2 Social Security checks, 2 people contributing to the household. But when life leaves you alone, that entire structure suddenly changes. Suddenly, that retirement plan becomes something else entirely. It becomes a survival plan. When my wife passed away, I learned this lesson the hard way. You don't just sit down and say, today I think I'm going to rebuild my financial life. That's not how it happens. Life forces the decision on you. Loss has a way of stripping away illusions. You start looking around at your life and realizing that what used to work doesn't work anymore. And that's when something very important has to happen here. Something that most people avoid. You have to become radically honest about your life. Radical honesty means asking yourself questions, well, that are rather uncomfortable. Questions like, what can I actually afford now? What lifestyle still makes sense? What things am I holding on to that no longer fit the reality of my life? And those questions can be painful, believe me. Because
Okay, so he fully admits the spouse is dead and the income is down to one. Now, he may have been down to one income in 2025, and we're going to show you what happened potentially. Like I said, I'm going to make sure I can't share addresses, but his spouse is not dead. Renee is not dead. And I don't want to talk too much because I don't think it's fair to her, even though she did support him during the case. But I think there's a lot of psychological things that Ray did to manipulate a very vulnerable widow, at the time. Because when Mr. Krebs married Renee, she was a widow. And I'll show you a family tree image that I created so you can very clearly see the relationships of all of these people very clearly between Ray, obviously Renee, and then the victim and the family, and how Renee connects to that, and how, Ray, in my opinion, as somebody who's studied psychiatric nursing and wanted to go into the field of actually treating patients, that he's definitely playing a psychological playbook. And he seems to have had manipulated a lot of people, with Ray kind of being the center, which makes me concerned about that community he was building. I mean, he's like escalating to cult out there in the woods, I'm really sort of getting some like Jim Jones going on, I was getting into it because it's just the way he's got a child and then the wife and then the boyfriend and the long-term boyfriend, Mr. Dennis Gibbs. And we're going to learn a lot more about Dennis Gibbs and how important Dennis Gibbs really was to Ray Krebs, more so than Renee. And so that's the really key piece. And it's not to shame him. It's just that his wife isn't dead. And I'll show you the evidence as to how you'll find from public records she is not deceased. The only person who is deceased is somebody else he cared about. And that happened in 2025. And those are the things that we're going to be sharing today. So, like I said, if you do like this type of true crime investigates with Mr. Krebs, make sure to hit the likes, guys, because it's very dark. It gets dark. Okay. So keep talking, Ray. Let's finish you out a little bit more and then we'll get to the actual receipts.
they often require letting go of things that once meant a lot to us. Homes, possessions, vehicles, whatever. Plans that we thought we'd keep forever. But sometimes survival requires something the modern world doesn't talk about much anymore. It requires adaptation. So let me ask you something here, guys. And I'm kind of curious to hear from those of you who have lived through this. Because if you lost a spouse, well, then you know what I'm talking about. What was the hardest financial adjustment that you had to make? Was it housing, utilities, medical costs, or something more personal? I read the comments every day, and I know there are a lot of people in this community who understand exactly what I'm talking about. So if you're comfortable, share it down below. There's something else about this issue that rarely gets discussed. The fastest growing household type in America today is a household of one. One person, one income.
Well, he may have been one income at this point. I don't think he's lying at this point. And remember, Ray is only 59 or 60. So I don't even know if he got Social Security disability, because once we found out his real age, found out he's like 60 in this video, or 59 at the earliest. So he's not like an old man. I'm going to be 57 shortly. So, I mean, it's just like, what? He's reading. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Sorry, guys, if I'm kind of letting him talk while I get stuff ready, because I did a lot of research today. So I'm still catching up with it all.
One set of shoulders carrying the weight of life. And many of those people are seniors, like me. Here we are. We're widows, widowers, divorced later in life, or disabled individuals. People who suddenly find themselves navigating life alone.
Yeah, he's absolutely reading it. All right, keep going, Ray.
Yet, the retirement system still
We
largely
gotta
acts
set up
like most households are two-person units. But the reality on the...
I have to set up, even though we're listening to him talk, and I'm just gonna let him keep talking. We got to set up what he all lied about, and then we're going to get into everything with the case. And we're not really going to focus on, obviously, what we know is his bigger crime. What we're going to focus on today is the relationship of all these different people and the relationships. And it's not, like I said, to shame. It's just that this is not a true narrative. His wife is not dead. This poor woman is not dead. Now, they may not be legally divorced, and she is not in some type of long-term like vegetized, okay? And so, like I said, I really don't want too much, I'm only going to say whereabouts she is in Kentucky, and that's it. And I'm going to show you from the public records that this woman is not deceased, and I'll show you what a public record looks like from the same place that somebody is deceased. So you see the difference between a live record and a deceased record that proves that she's still living. Okay, so I've got to set it all up.
Ground tells us a different story. More and more Americans are living what I call the one-income retirement reality. And of course, there's always another side to every issue. Here's the other side of the conversation that we can't ignore.
Yeah, he's pathological.
Because when one income disappears due to a loss...
This is a massive financial fraud, guys. I mean... I know people think this is a waste of time on YouTube, but when you start to uncover and probably find out just how much money he took from seniors or other people that thought they were giving to this, pitiful widow, and then they actually find out his true identity, I think even the people who can excuse the essay of children, because there's so many creepy weirdos who are doing that, and you're disgusting and you're vile. Okay, call me judgmental, but if you're coming into my comment section and trying to explain to me that this extremely manipulative adult, and I'm going to explain to you psychologically how this malignant narcissist with a heavy dose of antisocial personality disorder actually is a massive sexual deviant and stuff, okay? It's not this good guy who's going to ever repent. This is somebody who sits at the top of the food chain and has other people go at it to try to just think that he tells everybody that, how special and precious they are to him. And he doesn't care who or what sex, gender, whatever he's manipulating. It's all of it for Ray. And I'm not shaming him, but it's part of what his profile is. Think about the talented Mr. Ripley. That's Ray Krebs. In a nutshell. I'm not joking, guys. It is wild. This needs to be a book. I should probably write the book of Ray Krebs, because his crimes starting out in Florida up to all of that trial. And he admitted in the trial, and we'll take a look at the court case because I've been reading it. It's pretty big. He admitted that he did have sex with this minor. I should be careful of my language. I don't want to get in trouble with YouTube.
Not just financial. It's emotional as well. The person who helped carry life with you is now gone. And suddenly, everything starts to feel heavier. And I've shared a lot of that with you guys. The house feels bigger. The silence feels louder. And the responsibilities feel overwhelming. But that combination of grief and financial pressure is something that many of us are going through quietly. And not with a lot of guidance. There's no manuals for this. And there's not a lot of support either.
Yeah.
Eventually, I think most people reach a moment.
I had somebody that said that video where I showed him talking about saying he had served. I've got some great, I promise you, it's gonna get good, guys. But saying that they perceived him as being intoxicated. And I'm looking at it now as my lens as a registered nurse. And I'm like, yeah, this guy's a drinker. I mean, he's a smoker too. You can tell he's got emphysema. He's the pink puffer. That's why he looks so aged. And 10 hard years in prison. And like I said, the thing is, I don't shame people for their sexuality, but this guy is a deviant, okay? So there's a difference, okay? I just want you to make sure that it's because it's Ray and his specific manipulation And goodness knows what manipulation he's been out with these different people. And, you know, they're probably all, well, Jeb is is definitely got quite the profile. Okay. Oh, we got him. I know exactly who he is now. So we'll see some of his stuff too today, guys. Wait till the end. It's going to get good.
What I call, realization here. A moment where we start to understand something very clearly here. And the life that they had before is not the life they can sustain now.
Yes.
And, that's not failure coming to that.
And I actually think this one's worthy of a book. So I would love to put, because the complexity of everything is the car accident, the gossip in the town because of this large settlement, the fact that Ray had been with his wife for a very short amount of time before she had that accident, and the fact that she had been a widow to somebody who had been in the military service. And I'm not going to reveal any of the names of, I've got to take out the name of Renee's previous husband from my search just to show Ray's name. So I'm cleaning up a little bit of stuff because I don't want anything that's going to give any indication of the family. And people will probably be able to find out, but I certainly do not encourage anybody to ever approach these people. We do this channel just to share facts. I certainly would not say approach Ray. I would not approach Jeb. I would not reach out to his wife. I certainly do not ever want that to happen. We are here just looking at the facts of somebody who has very specifically manipulated a large number of people. Okay, 170,000 people on YouTube is nothing to be sneezed at that have subscribed. Half the time you get twice as many people as that number who've actually viewed your videos. I'm very familiar with the algorithm and YouTube and how that works. And so obviously, again, I just appreciate it. All right, keep going, Ray.
That point of understanding.
We always want to be careful.
It's simply reality. And accepting reality, I think, is the first step towards building something new. One of the biggest adjustments many people end up having to make is learning how to live smaller homes, maybe switching to an apartment. Or
nothing was mentioned in the court case about that. So I would not want to imply that Ray was involved with the accident. The only thing that happened is it seems that he got all of the money from the insurance claim. The wife was left with nothing and was put into a state-funded assisted living. And then he tried to intimate that another family, which was the victim's family, wanted his money. But in reality, what it was is that Renee was married to the grandfather of the victim when he passed away. I'll tell you about that. And then Renee married Ray Krebs. And then very shortly after that, she had the car accident. So they were not together for very long, is what I'm gathering. I've not seen that she and the other man were divorced, because that he passed away in 2002. So, but anyway, I'm jumping ahead.
Trying something different like I did. Fewer possessions, of course, simpler routines, and lower expenses. And now society often treats that like it's a tragedy. Yes, it is. Yes, they do. Excuse me. But I don't necessarily see it that way. Because sometimes living smaller is not about losing something. It's about gaining something else entirely. A little more freedom.
I know. And he gave a false name for a long time, even in his email. He was in prison for a long time. And we know he had the crimes in Florida. And some of that you have to think about is going to be why he started trying to take a plea when he first went into the courts about this child, and he admitted to what he did. And then he tried to get out on the technicality and say that he didn't get the plea he wanted. Reason being is they probably found out that he had the absconding from Florida and the warrant that he had to pay off while he was in court. And we've shown those receipts on this channel too. I don't want to flip back to that, but go back to other videos. I show very clearly that he had to pay for the 20 and when he was in jail, he settled the Florida warrant for the strong arm robbery that he committed in 1994 and fled that warrant out of Florida when he was on a probationary period. Then he committed the check fraud in Wisconsin. And by the time he would get into the court system, I think he went to jail around 2007. He would have been, they would have found out about the others. And I believe Kentucky has a 3 felony mandatory 10-year sentence. So I think Ray always has pled guilty to trying to get out of his crimes. If you look at any of his previous court cases, he pled guilty to the strong arm robbery. He pled guilty to one of the check forgeries in order to take that plea. And he was willing to do the same when he went into the police and he admitted to having inappropriate relations with a minor. And then the reason that got thrown out on the technicality, I think, is because they found out about his others, which I don't think that he thought they would find out about Wisconsin and Florida. And I think Kentucky is different. I think if you've had felonies even in other states and it comes up, a 3-time felony offender, I think in Kentucky, even if it's an out-of-state felony, is up for a 10-year sentence. So whatever plea was originally offered would not have been able to have stuck because of certain statutory restrictions. And I think that's where the technicality actually came in, because it's all mentioned in the case about him having 2 previous felonies. And those are the ones that we've already found out about on this channel.
Freedom from debt and freedom from constant financial pressure. Freedom from trying to maintain the life that no longer matches your circumstances.
She's not in a nursing home, but I'm not going to give any more details. She is not in a nursing home. Not from what, but I'm not going to say any more.
And that freedom can be surprisingly powerful. Now I want to talk about a different kind of wealth. You see, modern society measures success by how big your life looks, how big your house is,
right?
How many cars you own.
Well, you, Ray, got yourself a nice boat. You started multiple businesses with all that insurance money that you had while Renee was sitting in a state-funded rehab facility. It's all in the court case. She stuck by you because you're obviously a master manipulator, as seen by this YouTube channel. Yeah, I mean, you had 3 people wrapped around your finger even when you went to trial. And luckily, the jury saw through you and sent you to prison. Thank you, the citizens of Kentucky.
How much stuff?
The prosecutor did an excellent job. And he's still trying to bitch and moan about it to this day because he's a highly malignant narcissist, in my opinion, and extremely manipulative, highly dangerous because of that level. His crimes escalating, the number of people that he manipulated throughout his lifetime, and he always tries to blame other people. It's a classic textbook.
Stuff that you've accumulated. But when life strips those things away, you start to realize something important here.
No, well,
peace doesn't come from.
Well, he probably had time to educate himself, and his family seemed to be quite well educated. He said he did a little bit of college, which may be the only true thing he ever said. Because he didn't even go to boot camp. Because if you'd even had a week in boot camp, you will show up on a military record. Even if you got thrown out on a medical disability, suddenly they found out you're flat-footed and hammer-toed. It doesn't matter, that you will show up as having, some type of military record. This gentleman has 0. And that's nothing to do with the 1973 fire, because Mr. Krebs would have been around 7 years old, and I don't think actively serving in the military. The first year that Mr. Krebs would have been able to actively serve was 1984. And the fire that everybody refers to happened in 1973. So that's really for records of the First World War, the Second World War, the Korean War, a lot of the, maybe some of the folks in the Vietnam War. Those are the records that were lost. But anybody serving after 1973, those records are not lost. And the first year that Mr. Krebs, being born in 1966, would be eligible for service would have been 1984. So any record searched on him is going to be valid.
Size. Peace comes from stability, from knowing that your life can still fit within your means, from knowing you can sleep at night without worrying about the next bill, and you're not afraid of going to the mailbox. That kind of peace is a different kind of wealth, and sometimes it only becomes visible after life forces us to simplify. Have you had to downsize after retirement or losing a spouse? Did it feel like loss? Or did it eventually bring you some unexpected freedom? The truth is, the one-income retirement reality, well, it forces people to rewrite their own plan. You start focusing on what really matters here. Shelter, food, health, community, peace of mind. All the things that get buried under the noise of modern life, well, suddenly they become the center again. And strangely enough, well, many people discover that once the dust settles, they don't actually need as much as they once thought. After all, we are remarkably adaptable individuals. Because even when life knocks us down in ways we never expected, we try to rebuild, and we try to adjust, and we try to find new rhythms. And we look for new sources of meaning. And sometimes we even discover something unexpected, a strength we didn't know that we had. All right, here's my final thought.
Okay, let's hear your final thought, because we're going to show all your receipts now, Ray.
Losing my wife nearly destroyed me, emotionally and financially, in ways I don't think you'll ever fully recover from. But the life I built afterward, well,
yeah, he
it took a long time,
too.
but it taught me something important.
We'll do something.
Survival doesn't require a big life, of course. It requires.
I think he's somebody who supposedly is, this is what I hear. And obviously, unless we have an actual receipt, just somebody saying a name or Jeb crying in a woods, none of that. It's just, listen to what we're hearing from this guy talking about a wife. And I'm going to show you that she's very much alive. So this is not the case. And I have to be careful because I can't go to the public records actual website because her home address is on there. I'm not doxing her. So I took pictures of the screenshots of the records. I've taken out the address, but I've left all the other details so that you can see what a deceased public record looks like and an alive public record looks like, so that you can see well and truly she is alive and how the names match and stuff, and then if you want to take your own time and money to go look at the public records, then do so. But I can't dox this woman's home address or even somebody who's deceased, like his father.
An honest one. And sometimes the hardest but most powerful thing we can do is face reality with open eyes and build a life that actually works, even if it's smaller than the one we once imagined. Let me ask you one more question. What advice would you give?
Well, I don't think that's the only person that Mr. Krebs was cheating on his wife with. And that's what you're going to find out today. And like I said, it's no shame to what Mr. Krebs's sexual orientation is.
Someone who suddenly finds themselves living on one income after loss?
Yes, he is
Drop it down
probably
below.
reading his fist.
Your experience might help someone else who's just starting to walk down that road. All right, friends. I appreciate you spending a little time with me today. I'll give Sammy a scratch behind the ears for you.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Pity asking for the money. Okay. Comments are still on here. When a spouse dies, bills, incomes. He certainly talked about his wife being dead. Didn't you? I think we heard that he said his wife was dead 1,000 times. Okay. So let me share these images here because I want to show you that she is well and truly alive. Okay. All right. So I'm going to hide this part. Sorry, guys. I don't mean hide your comments. Okay. Kentucky background check. I took this report today, Tuesday, July the 21st, 2026. It's a complete status. Okay. This is her. This is Renee Krebs. She was born in 1964. She's 64 years old. She's a female. She's out of Paducah, Kentucky. In the county of McCracken. See here? Nothing that says deceased, okay? This is from today. Nothing that says deceased. So I'm going to show you all the things that show that this is his spouse, okay? She's alive. This woman is not deceased, okay? That's that one, okay? Let me share this one here. Okay. I had to, sorry, it's strange. I had to take, is that how it takes it out? Okay. This is her possible relatives. I didn't want to show all these people. Okay. These are like relatives of hers. Oh, that's a weird way to cut it out. Sorry, guys. I had to do this quick. But there's Raymond George Krebs, 60 years old. Okay. This person here, 53 years old, deceased 2002. That was the previous husband and the grandfather to the victim, the 14-year-old victim. Okay. I'm going to show you a family tree so it makes sense. But that was who her husband is. Okay. I'm sorry. I can't show you the website. And obviously the screenshot, I couldn't get it all in. But that's her possible relative is this guy. Okay. Like I said, you can go to the sites and verify that if you need to, double check. I just have to be very cautious. Okay. Let me show you what it looks like with Ray being alive and then his possible relatives. Okay. All right. So again, this is a Kentucky background check. This was taken on today, completed. Here's Mr. Raymond George Krebs, 1966, 60 years old, Fulton, Kentucky. Okay. Again, you see there's nothing behind his name or years of date of birth that says the word deceased. Now, you saw with the person underneath Ray's name, that was 2002. I have to hide people's identity, especially with a victim involved, that these people are alive. Renee Krebs, and do not reach out to her. Do not try to find this poor lady. She does not deserve this, okay? But I have to show that she is alive, okay? How else do we know? I'll share more with you, okay? Let me show you this file, okay? All right, let me show the different screenshots here. Is this it? Which one's this? Let me see what this is. Flash anybody's. Oh, let me take that off real fast. Oh, let me take that one down. Sorry. That one I need to remove. Okay. All right. Hold on. Let me add this one. There was a lot of different ones. So let me try to make sure. There we go. Let me share the dad. All right. So here's the dad. Eugene Alden Krebs, 1930, 91 years old. And you see very clearly behind his name, he was deceased in 2022. And it even puts in his public record the date of his death. See, Renee, if you look, okay, I'll put the first one on. If you take a look at Renee Krebs, the wife of Raymond, she, on the other hand, there's nothing to give a death record. And that was today. She is alive and well in Kentucky. They are obviously, I don't think that they are in speaking. I don't think that they live together. I don't think that she is in cahoots with him. So I would not say that she has anything to do with this situation. But she is alive. Because if you look at his dad's record, and I'll show, I've shown the obituary, it very clearly says when somebody is deceased. So he is deceased. Yeah, those are only for previous addresses. His dad has no offenses, okay? His dad was a good man, Purple Heart, veteran, served in the Korean War. There's nothing that he probably broke his father's heart. There's nothing this father has nothing to do with this, guys. Okay? I just want you to see what a deceased record looks like. You'll have a date of death in this Kentucky background check. Okay? And this is Ray's dad. I'm trying to bring up the different screens because I don't want to dox things, and I didn't name everything like I should have. Let me see what I got. Oh, Lord, Ray. Ray Krebs alive. Eugene Ray Krebs screenshot. Okay, where did my other recent screenshots go? Let me see. Date modified. Okay, that one let me go to the top. I had some other little ones that I just fixed, but I'm not sure. But those are the ones. There we go. Let me show. No, not that screenshot. Okay. So that shows that he is well, she is, and he is, the dad is deceased. The other person is well and truly alive. Hold on, maybe this is why they're not coming up. Hold on. All right, all right, here we go. Okay, let me share these just so you can see how they look too. Okay. All right, here we are. Okay, so here, I think this is it. All right. Oh, no, that's my nursing license. There we go. That's my nursing license, by the way. Okay. All right. Sorry, I keep thinking I'm seeing stuff. I have so many images, so I apologize. Everyone gets mad at me. Let me get to my desktop. Let me get to my most recent screenshots here. I just saw them. Goodness me. I don't know why they're... Here we go. No, I need it for today's date. I don't understand why. I'm having the worst time. All right, guys. I don't know why I keep finding them and then I lose them. I don't understand what's going on. Okay. All right. Let me take a look at this. All right. Let me bring up. I'm irritated with my stuff here. Which one's this? Yeah, that's the one. Oh, here we go. No, that's the husband. Where is the one that I just had? I don't understand. Oh, I've got too many files, guys. There we are. What's this one? Is this today? Okay, let me rename this so I know what this is. All right. All right. This is... Oh. Oh, okay. Raymond relatives. Let me write this up so you can see this for his dad. All right. And let me write this one. It's just giving... Oh, no, that's not the one I want because that one's not edited. Oh, I have too many things on my desktop dies. Okay, let me bring up Raymond's relatives. People get mad at me for this. Let me not mess around. This is what happens when you got too many files. Oh gosh. Okay, it's fighting me. Oh, okay. All right, guys. I'm gonna have to clean up my desktop a little bit and make sure I order things better. Okay, let's share some screens but I hope people can see that this is his dad. I think I shared his obituary, that this is Raymond's dad. And if not, let me share his obituary real fast with you guys so I can keep this moving because otherwise I'm gonna lose. I just have so many things. Oh my goodness. That I have taken care of here. And it's just, I have so many screens open and you start to get just like crazy here. Okay. All right. So let me share this screen. Don't know why they want me to do this. Okay. We got that up. I'm going to have to start shutting the stuff down. Okay. No, I need to remove this. Hold on. There we go. All right. Okay. There we go. All right. So there's his father's obituary, just so that you can see that Eugene Alden Krebs Sr., that is Ray's dad, okay? He was a Army veteran, served in the Korean War, Purple Heart recipient, lifetime member of the American Legion. He died in Hickman County. He was actually in Kentucky. Survived by two sons, Raymond Krebs of Fulton. We know that's our Ray. Mike Krebs of Houghton Lake, Michigan. Several grandchildren, great-grandchildren. He preceded in death by his parents, etc., etc. Okay? So that's his father passed away January 23rd, 2022. So dad passed away in 2022. Okay? That's when dad passed away. All right. So let me then share. I have the image of his mother's obituary. So let me get to that. Oh goodness. You know what I hate is the fact that if I come in here, I need to take a look at let me just share this side-by-side comparison of the public records while I take a look at where his mother's obituary is. I don't understand why, unless it's under downloads. No. Okay. Goodness. I'm going to have to clean up this. You know what this tells me today? Ray, clean up your desktop here. Okay. So just to compare side by side so you can kind of see, that direct comparison for proving Renee Krebs is alive. Okay. She is 62 years old, as we saw in that particular file. We saw that Ray's dad died when he was 91 years old. We also can see that obviously we had her noted as deceased. I need to stop naming things screenshot. That would help if I actually took the time to name stuff, but I just take screenshots a lot of the time and then I forget to name stuff, and that's just because it's going to be an unholy nightmare soon. Okay, so we can see that, we saw he was deceased. We see the date of birth, and we see his date of birth, but we also see a date of death, and she has no date of death. There's nothing there. Okay, and then we saw obviously her address and then his dad. And so we saw all of those. Okay. I'm going to add now the, I don't know why every time I do let me search Ray. I'm going to have to stop anything that contains Ray. Really? All right. Anything that can change, because I just put the word a bit in this. Can you find that, please, on my desktop? Really? All right. Let me try to figure out why I just took a thing of his mother's screenshot, named it here on my thing, and it doesn't want to show up. All right, guys, hold on. I'm just going to say, what was her name? Ruth Krebs. Just so you can see all the different obituaries here. Okay. Oh, my goodness. Okay. Time to clean up your computer, Ray. People have already said this is the worst part. When I have this much evidence, though, and I'm just trying to find stuff, and it just does, it's not wanting to order things like it's supposed to. Anyway, okay. There we go. So there's his mother's obituary. Okay. You've had this dude show up in your recommended before. So that's his mom, who passed away in 2014. Okay. So we got the dad's obituary. Okay. She was a member of this fellowship church. There's Raymond Krebs again. Okay. All the children, Rosanna, Dawn is deceased now. The brother, Eugene Alden, who was the junior, has since passed away. Obviously, Raymond is not the junior because he does not share his father's name. His father was named Eugene. Okay, so here's all their family history, all here. Okay. I just want you to see all this okay, and then I'm going to take this off and I'll add this back to the stage. Okay. All right, so we see, I'll remove this and add that back to the stage. Okay, there's his dad's obituary. So there are all the players in this particular thing in regards to this. Okay, so now I'm actually going to try to explain something about the court case. So we're going to share the tab instead. So, all right, let me come over here and share this tab instead. Okay. So this is the actual case, Krebs versus the Commonwealth, 2009. So is everybody on the same page that Renee Krebs is still very much alive, is still very much living? She is definitely there. Okay. And everything with this matches this. So his claims that his wife died years ago, obviously these are Kentucky registries, prove otherwise. Okay. We've seen very clearly where we have a death record. We know his wife's name is Renee Krebs. That is the person that she was married. That's the name of his wife. Okay. And like I said, I wish I could show you the actual public records website, but unfortunately, because of the number of addresses that they do list, I cannot bring that website up. I can only bring up the screenshots. And so where it says the possible relatives and all this other information, you can't see it unless I kind of scroll onto there. And then I don't want to dox other people who have nothing to do with anything to do with this, because this was happening in a very small town. And I think a lot of people were pretty, upset. It definitely shook probably this little town up pretty significantly at the time. So we can see that his mother's obituary, she is deceased, the father is deceased, and the wife's files has no death record. There's no death stamp, there's no closure date, there's no death marker. She is not dead. And this matches everything with the case, okay? And she was severely injured in a car accident, and she survived and was interviewed alive by state investigators. And he completely fabricated her death to build a marketable tragedy to his audience as a widower. Yeah, this is crazy. It gets even more crazy, I promise you. It gets more. Okay, it's just so I've just like tried to go. Okay, so in 2005, okay, the domestic reality. Now, this investigation is, like I've said, I just always want to talk about this, is about exposing the structural and financial fraud, not shaming anyone's private life, the state's own legal files, permanently established who this creator was actually sharing a household with, okay, under the relevant facts section of the Supreme Court text. There's a detective records arriving at Mr. Krepp's home, and they were met in the driveway by an associate of Mr. Krepp's by the name of Dennis Gibbs. This gentleman is deceased. So that's one of the reasons why I'm not uncomfortable revealing Mr. Krepp's partner's name, who gave a sworn statement to law enforcement, and his text completely shadows the timeline that he tries to, kind of give to his viewers. Okay, so if I go do a find, we're going to look for the word Gibbs. Okay, so this is what I want to read here. Okay, so, all right, so we're not going to shame the child. I'm not going to reveal the mother's name, okay? So just to make it very clear, and this is totally public record. You can look up this Krepp's versus the Commonwealth case. It is quite lengthy, but it's interesting because I think you're going to find that he did lose somebody in 2025, but it wasn't Renee Krepp's. So, and you're going to see that this relationship was probably quite significant for Raymond. And it's just, and like I said, no shame. So, all right. So, what happened is that, and I think it's important to read the relevant facts of this case. Okay. We're going to go through these relevant facts. So, just bear with me. I think it's important to know. And then we're going to show kind of a family tree of everybody involved. Then we're going to get to a very important obituary. And then we're going to show Jeb's, all of his photo lineup. I've got Jeb's arrest photos, guys. So stay to the end because we are going to share. I don't know every one of his crimes yet. So, but I know enough details that I could start looking up these court cases in Kentucky. But I've got a lovely thing of his all of his mug shots to share with you. Okay, so make sure you're giving us a like, guys, and keep the chat moving. Okay, drop me a 1 in the chat if you're learning something new about Ray Krepp's today. Okay, just drop me a 1 because the chat's got slow. I think, yeah, Ray will find out. Yeah. That's right, Lovescape. I will. Thank you, Angel Glass. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it, guys. Just to keep the chat moving. All right. Because I think it's, I'm sure people are actually reading this. So, okay. So in July 2004, Krepp's was a 38-year-old at the time. So 2004. Now, Renee, I'm still trying to find out whether or not she did become the widow in 2002. And then maybe Ray. Oh, here it is. New wife, Renee. So I think Renee probably became a widow in 2002 to the grandfather of the victim. So think about how Mr. Krepp's is coming in on a widow. Okay. That I'm not sure how long she and the other person were married. She is not the biological grandmother of the victim, but she was close to the family. And I think she may have been the spouse up to the time of the death of the victim's grandfather. So let's read this. In July 2004, Krebs, who was a 38-year-old at the time, and his new wife, Renee, it's actually Rene. It's not unusual to see typos from like court reporters and stuff. So this is not the correct spelling of her name. She doesn't have that E there. Allowed 13-year-old AS to move into their residence in Fulton, Kentucky. Renee Krebs had previously been married to AS' grandfather and had remained close to AS and AS' mother, Tara Anderson, even after, the death of Tara's father 2 years previously. So she was the widow of this grandfather. And then Mr. Krebs, very shortly after, married a widow. This woman then has a horrific car accident. Probably, maybe she knew him in town for some time, but but he came out from Michigan, so he'd not spent his whole life in Kentucky. Probably only got to Kentucky a couple of years before that when he met her. Because remember, 1999, he's committing crimes in Wisconsin. 1994, he's committing crimes in Florida. And the family is originally from Michigan. So Mr. Krebs is not, even though he's got that real country boy accent now, he is not from Kentucky originally. It's a lot. Okay, so I've shown you all those different, obituaries and timelines. That's her alive. Okay. She's not deceased. Okay, so during the summer of 2004, Renee learned from Tara that AS was out of control. Okay, this is and agreed to be a guardian for AS that she could have a more stable environment. So obviously the grandfather was gone. The patriarchal male of this family is now deceased. From what I found out, the grandfather was somebody who also was in the military and quite active with his legion. So everybody has had a military record except Mr. Krebs. So he is stealing and cosplaying with everybody else's military history. It's not his. 7 months after AS began living with Renee and Raymond Krebs in February 2005, sorry, goodness me, Renee was involved in a serious car accident. Now, she is no longer in this rehab facility. So she is thankfully alive, well, and has recovered from her injuries, which I'm really happy to hear. I've cared for patients who have become quadriplegic from car accidents, teenagers, absolutely on feeding to you name it. And so to have her probably potentially recovered, as far as we know, out of the rehab is awesome news. And so we're just going to leave it there. Well enough to be able to be interviewed by the police as well, as you'll find out. So she's obviously not a feeding, intubated or anything, and on a breathing machine. She's well enough to be able to actually speak and be interviewed by the police and be well enough for her testimony to be considered cognitive and appropriate, so that she's not like, because you can't be like all spaced out on controlled drugs and stuff and make a sworn witness statement. You can't be high as a kite, technically. Otherwise, that's not a good statement. All right. So this child moves in. She has the accident and AS continued to live. So think about this. This young girl has lost her grandfather. You've got a master manipulator like Raymond Krebs suddenly in charge of a teenage child that is not biologically his. And he is suddenly decides he doesn't need to act like an appropriate adult. None of these adults seem to act in the best interest in this child and probably trying to save their own skins. It's not uncommon for, people, even adults not to be willing to take, adult responsibility. Well, now that is not true. Now that was what I understand was something that they did do to try to get the girl to confess. And so I think that you'll see in this. So let me read this because I want to make sure we have all the facts clear. Okay. So she was involved in a series. Okay. And she continued to live with Krebs, but the mother would obviously come by and see her. Mother probably, potentially We don't know what her issues were, but potentially, she just lost her father. So anybody knows really, how catastrophic maybe that could be. So after a year of living with Krebs in July 2005, Amy Timmons, a social worker, received information from don't even get me to say that word, anonymous caller that a 14-year-old AS was pregnant due to relations with Krebs. Timmons then contacted this particular sheriff's office, and the two traveled to Krebs' residence to conduct an interview. Now, this is the important part, okay? Although no one was home initially, and let's not just gloss over this because we're going to look at this very important obituary soon. Timmons and Drew learned from Dennis Gibbs, who pulled into the driveway as they were about to leave. We're going to learn about Dennis Gibbs. As I said, he's deceased, so I don't feel any, and he's mentioned in this case that Renee Krebs was still at the rehabilitation center, and AS's mother and Krebs were currently at Krebs's houseboat. Sounds real poor. That's what he bought with the insurance money, by the way, in Green Turtle Bay. Gibbs also told Timmons and Drew that he had been living with Krebs since his wife's car wreck, and that he was now romantically involved with Krebs. Now, this man really stood on the stage and defended Ray Krebs. And you're going to find out from Dennis Gibbs' obituary just how important Raymond Krebs was to him, even in 2025. So this is the person that Ray lost and feels lonely probably not having, because I'm sure this is the person that met Ray when Ray came out of prison. Dennis Gibbs was a licensed practical nurse, and I'm horrified to say, instead of him acting in the role of the mandated reporter that he should have been, he probably was trying to cover up, 2005 Kentucky, their, living arrangements. But he openly said that they were involved with each other. And like I said, this is not to shame, but the Mr. Krebs seems to be having a relationship because you'll see in this, we'll keep going in the story. Okay. And like I said, the jury saw this and found enough evidence to convict Mr. Krebs. Soon after receiving this information, Timmons and Drew interviewed Renee Krebs at the rehabilitation center, and she confirmed that the victim had been staying with them since July 2004. So there was no way in reality that this family was trying to set up a situation to bilk Mr. Krebs out of his houseboat or any of those things, because he didn't get any of those until he got hold of her insurance payout when she had the car accident, because he took that money and bought a houseboat. He got himself like a construction business, a tree trimming service, all the sort of businesses that just handle cash, So, and then Krebs, AS, and Tara's, all three denied a sexual relationship existed between AS and Krebs, and the AS was pregnant. Okay, so everyone denies all this. So following these initial interviews, AS and her mother left Krebs' houseboat and began staying with Jeff and Dallas Fetters, who were Tara's neighbors and friends. In a later police interview, Tara stated that once she and AS were at Federer's or whatever, she and Dallas made AS take a pregnancy test, but then deceived AS into believing that she was pregnant so she would admit the truth about the relationship with Krebs. So the mother's very honest. She obviously knew something was going on. Mr. Krebs was probably manipulating a 13-year-old child because you have to think that, he was with her, and Dennis had moved in to act as the disciplinarian in this situation. So he brought his boyfriend to the house. And Krebs and Tara stated that AS eventually admitted that she had with Krebs and that she had previously lied about it. However, okay, so Krebs, okay, relation text says AS eventually admitted. Okay, however, after Tara told AS that she would have to report Krebs, and after AS discovered that she was not pregnant, AS insisted that she had only admitted to having sex with Krebs because her mother and Dallas would not leave her alone and were threatening her. But you have to think about the type of manipulation that probably someone like Raymond Krebs was having on a very vulnerable teenage girl, making her feel very special and loved when nobody else was doing it. I mean, the grooming from this man is outstanding, just outstanding. I mean, he even groomed the ex-wife. I mean, he's something else. He really is. Okay. The Federacies, there we go, I got it that time, eventually notified the McCracken County Sheriff's Office about the incident, which led Officer Drew conducting a second interview of AS and Tara on July 21st, 2005. It was during the second interview that Tara revealed her involvement in giving AS a fake pregnancy test and in getting AS to admit that she had had sex with Krebs. During AS's interview, she initially denied that she had sex with Krebs, but eventually, after Officer Drew questioned her further, broke down and admitted that she and Krebs did have a sexual relationship. And we always need to believe the word of the victim, please. That was probably quite traumatic. Most of these people have very good ways of handling, and obviously she came across as credible to the people in Kentucky who convicted him. Okay. At the end of the interview, AS made a written statement detailing 4 instances when she and Krebs had sex during the period from January 5 to June. And that sounds like reasonable. And there's probably more because girls always underestimate. 2 weeks later, on August 4th, 2005, Krebs voluntarily went to the Graves County Sheriff's Office in order to answer questions regarding his relationship with AS and Officer Drew and Kentucky State Police Officer George Bell conducted Krebs' interview, a tape of which was played for the jury during Krebs' trial. During this interview, Krebs eventually confessed to having sexual intercourse with AS. So everyone's saying that they had with everyone. Nobody has denied it, not even Mr. Krebs. And you think he's already been very adept of handling police since he had a strong-armed robbery and a check forgery. So this is not somebody who's not already familiar with getting interviewed and going through a court system. This is not a naive man sitting here. This is somebody very familiar with everything that goes on. How does this freak have a YouTube channel? Because YouTube just doesn't care. They don't care. So 2 weeks later, on August 4th, okay, so he went there voluntarily. During this interview, he confessed, admitting that they had on the den floor of his residence in a van. Oh, lovely. A couple of miles away from his residence. Probably because the boyfriend was there at the time. Oh. And in his truck while it was parked in the driveway. Krebs explained that she was 14 going on 31. Yeah, don't we love that age shift blaming from an adult man of a child? Not that he was grooming her and a very vulnerable child at that. No, she obviously was grooming him, wasn't she? Because he's just this poor man who was married to a woman having relations with a child and relations with the man who's the LPN who should have been reporting this, actually, instead of acting like the, upset boyfriend that he came in as. So that's horrific to me that somebody with a medical license allowed it to happen. And Mr. Gibbs was an LPN. I just want to make out that you understand he was a licensed practical nurse, an LPN. Okay. He's not a registered nurse. Very different in our licensure. My licensure is higher. There's things that he could never do that I can do in my practice. So not to be mean, but I just want to tell that people there's always a difference between the two. Okay. All right. So Krebs. Okay. Yeah, whatever. And that she had been coming on to him since she moved into this residence. Yeah. Okay. Whatever, mate. Let's just throw the victim blame here. Okay. So let's get down to what, okay. So he talks about all this, okay, and this. So let's get this to Mr. Gibbs, because this is the most important person here. Mr. Krebs' boyfriend. Because his boyfriend is probably the most important part of this. In response, the defense relied on testimony of Krebs and his boyfriend, Dennis Gibbs. Gibbs testified that AS had a crush on Krebs. Okay, really, sir? This is a mandated reporter. This is a man. This is terrible. This person, no, not a good man, and constantly behaved inappropriately around him. Did he try to correct her? I mean, I don't think that's, this girl should not have been in the home with either of these two men, is my estimation. Gibbs also stated that he and AS did not get along because he disapproved. I mean, it's a child. Okay. This man passed away at 70 some years old in 2025. So this is a grown man talking about all this. Okay. And he did not get along because he disapproved of her behavior towards Krebs and because he was the disciplinarian of the house. Oh, that's good to know. Probably because he was the nurse. Krebs testified that he notified AS's mother of AS's inappropriate sexual advances several times. I don't think that's the case. I think that's a lie. Because that's not, the mother seems to have been very honest about tricking the child about the pregnancy test. And she doesn't have anything about Mr. Krebs having come to her and said anything. So that makes me think. Well, look at what the analysis was. Okay. Okay. Krebs testified. Okay. It's going to bed in the middle of the night, walking naked in front of him. Okay, whatever. But Krebs stated that Tara simply laughed it off and did not take it seriously. I don't think that's the case. I think the mother, once she had suspicions that something was happening, maybe the daughter said something, maybe she sensed something, the way mothers can, that she actually decided to try to do something and get her daughter to say something. Any mother knowing dealing with a teenage girl, probably, she was giving her the runaround potentially, not trying to get this person in trouble. There's all sorts of manipulation happening from a grown man on a child. And that's the part I find just really terrible. Yes, he had a boyfriend. Yeah, the Dennis Gibbs is the boyfriend. They were romantically involved. This is the boyfriend of Mr. Krebs. This is his boyfriend. Yes. And it's no shame. But it's a very complicated. So he's got a wife that's alive that he's now said is deceased in his video, not deceased, well and truly alive. He's victim blaming a child that he probably was grooming in his home. And he's got his male lover in the home now acting as the disciplinarian. All of them just obviously worshipping Ray, because everybody is the problem always but Ray. He was late 30s, early 40s. He was like 40 years old. Yeah, poor Raymond. So I want to hear from all his, religious people who talk about repentance and forgiveness. If they start to think about him laying with another man, what are all the prayer warriors and all of these people going to think of that? Because they're okay with him essaying a 14-year-old girl or a 13-year-old girl and excusing behavior. All these male creators that I've heard talk about this young girl this way are vile. But they've glossed over the boyfriend that lived with him. And you're going to find out this is probably the person he was living with until 2025 when he got out of prison. He and Mr. Gibbs are probably still residing together up until Mr. Gibbs's passing. Because you'll find out in his obituary how special Ray was. So he didn't come out of Ray's life after this. And it's no shame. But what they did to the victim and kind of Ray's, it's just that Ray's a manipulator. That's what you got to see. Ray at the top of the pile. All these people, raise the shining light. And these are these little moths around this, malignant narcissist feeding his ego all the time. From a child to a man to the woman laying in a hospital bed defending him. Because he probably charmed them, just like you can see the charm and the smarm when he comes onto his channel. That sort of, charming. Can you imagine him laying that on to people who maybe aren't mentally able to really tell they're being manipulated? It's really bad. Yes, he was his older guy. Yeah. Yeah, we don't care. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we don't care what the whole thing is no shame. I started this out at the very beginning. There's no shame about anybody's sexual preferences. It's just the fact that Ray was manipulating multiple people at the same time. That's not good. A child, his male partner, and his wife. I mean, how are people going to keep telling me this was a good man? All the people that come to my comment sections and talk about forgiveness and repentance and don't say something about somebody who's this pathologically disturbed and deviant, really, and manipulative, and manipulated all of these people on YouTube as well, to the point that they're offending him in his comment section and saying they can forgive him for what he did to this child. But I just wonder if they'll forgive him for his long relationship with Mr. Dennis Gibbs. Because that's not the thing that gets spoken about. Because that's going to be the shatter. Because Renee is truly well and alive. Yeah, I don't even trust him with the animals. No, they're just props. Everybody's a prop with these people. Okay. So Mr. Gibbs also stated AS did not get along. Krebs testified. Okay, right. Okay, Taryn Federicis had threatened him with blackmail. Okay, this is his thing about, okay. This is, all of his stuff, okay? But how much could we ever believe from Ray? All right, investigating the allegations, Taryn the Federicis had threatened him with blackmail unless he gave them houseboat, his businesses, and the money he received from his wife's accident settlement. Well, the only reason he had a houseboat and the businesses were probably because of the wife's accident settlement, because the parents were still living, so he hadn't collected from his family. We know up to then he'd been forging checks in 1999, so it's not like he had this great career going, except as a criminal. Krebs claimed that he only confessed to having with AS because he felt like it at that point. Oh, okay. It did not matter what he told the police. And his thing about not having any money for a defense when you've got a houseboat, when you have, because remember his latest video, he said, I didn't have money to defend myself. Well, why didn't you sell the houseboat, the business? And I guess since you were already the executive of the wife's accident settlement, surprised you didn't use that money too to defend yourself. Because it didn't seem to go to her. Yeah. No, he's been deceitful since day one. This is the biggest, just one of the biggest con stories, I think. I thought Sarasota Tim was, Tim tells some lies too, don't get me wrong. But this is on a whole new level of just absolute manipulation on YouTube. And the fact that he didn't think, folks, they always think that people will never investigate. I at least know as a registered nurse, I have to pass background checks all the time. I even accidentally flashed my nursing license today, which you can find on public information anyway. Messing around with my files. So it just says that, obviously it's important. And he really sold a good story because then we'll get to Mr. Gibbs. Oh my goodness. And then we'll show Jeb's lineup pictures and we'll be finishing out, guys. And I'll still be doing more research. Okay. So Krebs insisted at trial that he with AS, and on July 12th, 2007, the jury found Krebs guilty of all charges and recommended a sentence of 5 years on each count for a total sentence of 20 years. And then he appealed, of course, because he had money. He really did have money to do that because he had a boat and settlement money. and probably Mr. Gibbs working at the hospital. Okay, so the analysis. Because Krepp's statement was made in the course of a plea discussion, the trial court committed reversible error by admitting it at trial. Prior to trial, Kreps moved to suppress his taped police statement, arguing it was inadmissible because it was not given voluntarily, because it was made during the course of a plea discussion with the prosecutor and prohibited by KR 410. Okay, so what is KR 410? In order to denying this motion, the trial court acknowledged, and remember, this is no legal advice from me, acknowledged the interrogating officer told Krepp that they couldn't promise anything, okay, but they could relate the fact of cooperation and they could make recommendations to the prosecutor's office. With no further discussion of KRE 410 and its prohibition on statements made in the course of plea discussions, the trial court concluded that because Krepp's statements were made voluntarily, his taped confession was admissible. On appeal, Krepp alleges that this ruling constitutes reversible error because KR 410 mandates the exclusion of his statements. So what is KR 410? Because that is important. Okay, so KR 410, let me show the screen real fast. All right, so KR 410, I hate AI, but here we go, refers to Rule 410 of the Kentucky Rules of Evidence, which governs the inadmissibility of pleas, plea discussions, and related statement. It is nearly identical to Federal Rule of Evidence 410. Under KRE 410, evidence of the following is not admissible against the defendant in any civil or criminal proceeding. A plea of guilty that was later withdrawn, a plea of nolo contendere, no content in any jurisdiction accepting such a plea, any statement made in the course of formal plea proceedings, any statement made during the plea discussions, and so on. So that's what that means. Okay. So during the interview, Grays County police officer initially informed Kreps that he could not promise him anything specific because he was not the prosecutor. So, and this is what, okay, we have to hear what Kreps says. Kreps counted that he was willing to work with Officer Drew and the Kentucky State Police Bell and asked if they could talk to the county attorney and see what kind of deal we can make. Probably Kreps knew that they would find out about that Florida absconsion and warrant, active warrant, probably. Officer Drew eventually informed Kreps that in Graves County, Kreps was facing 4 Class C felonies, which could result in 5 to 10 years imprisonment on each count. And pleading with the officer to reduce his felonies to misdemeanors, Kreps stated, if you guys talk the prosecutor into a felony, I'm going to run it all the way up to the court and hope for the best. I ain't got no choice. You want me to cop a misdemeanor and talk probation. I'll give you that because that's always what he does. He took the probation and copped a plea in Florida. He took a probation and copped a plea in Wisconsin. I'll give you that, but that's as far as I can go. Help me out. Help a dying man out. Well, Mr. Kreps, how could you be dying in 2005? Well, that's one long, usually time of death is, when we start working with patients in hospice, it's 6 months to a year that we think the person is going to pass away. So how are you dying in 2005? What were you dying of? Because you're still well and truly alive lying on YouTube. So what were you dying of? Oh, yeah. Oh, well, that has to be a federal case, I understand. Kentucky is not going to get in for that. That's what I understand, having talked to Kentucky people. people in the know in Kentucky. Let me put it that way. Okay. Because let's help a dying man out. Can you please? Subsequently, after Officer Drew tried to contact the prosecutor on the phone, he was unable to reach him. But he told Krebs that he knew the prosecutor would reduce his charges to at least Class D felonies and would possibly run his sentences concurrently or allow him to do county time. However, Officer Drew also informed Krebs that those things are beyond our control right now because the prosecutors are not here and they are ultimately going to be the ones that make the decision. He then, Officer Drew then spoke with the Commonwealth's attorney on the phone and informed him that Krebs was willing to write out a statement or give a confession in exchange for a deal. If you're an innocent person and you have a houseboat in a home and you don't want to have yourself on a lifetime Kentucky registry, wouldn't you use every money and everything that you have to prove your innocence? I certainly would. I'd sell every dang thing that I own, home included at this moment, if it meant that I had to defend myself for a crime that this horrendous that I did not commit. I certainly would not be sitting with police officers trying to figure out how to cop a deal. Because that's not what innocent people do. So Mr. Krebs obviously knew that it was not going to go over well in his hometown, that the defendant and everybody else was going to probably come across as quite credible to the jury and the court, you know. And so going into that, he obviously knew he was not going to be credible. Not when they started to bring out his felonies from Florida, the fact that he skipped town on an active warrant, had another felony in Wisconsin. Maybe they can't mention all of those, but it could have been that they could potentially have mentioned. And I'm sure Ray at the time knew that he had that active open warrant in Florida because it was only like 11 years after. He's obviously not very bright. They linger around YouTube because, oh, the money is good, guys. I promise you. Okay. These people that gatekeep, especially female creators, they really try to gatekeep you away from the money. And they try to make me feel bad because I actually, legitimately do research and have a business. And I don't feel bad. It gives me an opportunity to really dig in and do research and move the blame away from the victim and move it to the person that needs to have the focus. And that's Raymond Krebs. Because the only person that's guilty of anything here is Raymond Krebs. All right, we'll keep working through this and then we'll get to the obituary. All right, I'm going to take a sip of water, guys. Okay, here we go about the prior convictions. This is what I find so funny. And why weren't people talking about all these prior convictions that he had? And we have shown on this channel what those prior convictions were. Right here. The dots are matching up, guys, because on this channel, we spoke about the Florida case. On this channel, we spoke about the Wisconsin case. And we revealed that information here. And this goes right here to what's being said here. Okay. Ooh, this is getting good. Officer Drew then spoke with the Commonwealth's attorney. Oh, it's a Commonwealth. I love that. We're a Commonwealth in Virginia. On the phone. And informed him that Krebs was willing to write out a statement. Okay, all right, don't repeat, right? Following the phone conversation, which occurred in Krebs' presence, Officer Drew told Krebs, I wish their names were easier, that the prosecutor was offering a little bit, but he had refused to reduce any of the charges to a misdemeanor. Primarily just because of the nature of these particular offenses. And they're very good at knowing their laws in Kentucky, I'll tell you that much. Krebs expressed concern that because of his prior convictions, another felony would be his third offense. Okay, we know, we've seen them, guys, resulting in an automatic 5 years. And one of them he knew he was wanted on an active warrant in Florida, of which we've seen the receipts that he had to pay the $550 to pay off the Florida courts in wherever it was. Was it Pinellas County, I think? Okay. So, Officer Drew then informed Krebs that the Commonwealth's attorney did not have a problem with reducing the Class C felonies to a Class D and running them concurrently. In response, Krebs said he was looking for the best deal he could get. He inquired if Class D was the lowest level of felony. Oh, wow. Just a real stand-up guy, hey? I just love the innocence happening here in using social media. Yes, well, I can promise you, Rogered. Okay, there's certain things that I do as a mandated reporter that I will not reveal on this channel. But let me promise you, not only do these receipts these are not just seen by you, certain things. Okay, and I'm just going to say that because I don't make money from that. Okay, not if they're trying to do any type of active investigations. Okay, guys. Yeah, we need each of us to take up arms. Yes, well, I am a mandated reporter, and unlike Mr. Dennis Gibbs, who did not take his role seriously, I actually do take mine seriously, and that's all I'm going to say. Okay? Because I just don't want to. I can't say much, okay? Because obviously I have to look like I'm not in the. But I am a mandated reporter, and there's been children involved and all sorts of other things. So I'm just going to say. Yeah, it really is, and I don't want to make content because I don't want to try to get clicks and stuff off of specifically doing things that you do as a member of a community, so that's unless something starts to come up, then we'll talk more about that. But I'm not going to I gotta stay quiet, guys. Okay, otherwise it's not. I'm violating certain things about my own ethics in my profession. So, but let's say it this way: if I'm not quiet on my channel, I promise you, in my real life behind me too, I'm not a quiet individual either when it comes to advocating, especially for children. I am a pediatric RN and a strong public advocate, which is why I do these types of videos where I educate about finding actual receipts and research, sharing my research techniques, talking about obviously the psychological profiles, psychiatric profiles, using my licensure in order to do so. And I'm happy really to do it. I love doing it. It's really, a way to show some of the other things that we do in the nursing profession, other than just obviously direct patient care. But our roles as mandated reporters, as people who are educators in the community, who care about the community, who care about the health of people, vulnerable seniors, children. That's my mission here. That's why I don't want Mr. Krebs taking a single penny from another person. I don't like people who have mistakes, like, for example, things like DUIs, and try to just like flip them off. Do you know how many times it takes for somebody to be driven drunk before they get their first DUI? You know how many times they put other people's lives at risk before they get stopped before a DUI? And I'll bring up the statistics. It's about 80 times somebody drives drunk before they actually get their first DUI conviction. Think about that. So when people try to say those are just little mistakes, if somebody gets killed, that's not a mistake. And it's certainly not a little one when you're behind something as dangerous as a car. And so I take these things really seriously. Deadbeat dads who don't like to pay child support, I take that pretty seriously too. And we'll be talking about some creators who try to create communities to allow for these types of individuals to find solace in having provided nothing to society or their children. So, and peddle medical misinformation on top of it. It's a whole community. We'll get to them all. They all have criminal records. All right. So we know about the prior convictions here. And it's funny because everyone could have read here that he obviously had prior convictions, but I was actually, I believe, the first person to have found actually what those convictions were. Okay. So we know that's what those convictions are. Krepson said, okay, I give you what you want. When do I see a judge? He wanted to know if it was a Class A misdemeanor, and Krebs could see a judge that afternoon and he could post bond. So it's the only thing he cared about. Sure, why not? And all these others, this girl just let him on. I can't with these misogynists. They are so hostile and they hate women. This platform is just rife with men who hate women. Anyway, okay, Krebston informed the officers that he had incriminating information. See, look, he's trying to see, look at this manipulation here about the mother of the victim and asked whether he should reveal it or save it for later. I'll tell you the deal I'm looking for. 1 year or less in the county. I'll take the rest on paper. I'll go 5 years on paper if that's what you want. Officer Drew replied that Krebs' attorney would have to work that out for him later based on the information he could give Tara Anderson. Krebs then went to smoke a cigarette. See, I told you Krebs was a smoker. All this time, I've said that he's a pink puffer with emphysema because he sounds like he has emphysema when he walks up a hill. Oh, my goodness. That was subjective assessment there. And it says he smoked a cigarette. Not shocked. I'm not judging. I'm just saying that I could tell that he hadn't started dying of the emphysema then. All right. When he returned, he told Officer Drew, I think you're going to go to bat for me and try to work this out for me. All right, let's get this over with. I'll confess to having had consensual with AS, age 14. Even though she was 13, I think, when she moved into the home. This was the age. But 13 is the age of the victim on his flyer for the registry. And will admit to the 4 counts being charged with. And despite Officer Drew's statement that the Commonwealth's attorney was willing to reduce the Class C felonies to Class D, Krebs was indicted for 2 Class C felonies and 2 Class D felonies. All right. And so that KR 410 prohibits the admission at trial of any statement made in the course of a plea discussion with an attorney. And so that's what this was about. And so that was the supposed technicality that he was trying to look for. But it says that thus a statement must be suppressed pursuant to KR 410 when it's made in the course of plea discussions. And those discussions are with an attorney for the prosecuting authority. KR 410-4. First and foremost, Krebs meets the second requirement under KR 410 because his statement was made in discussions with an attorney for the prosecuting authority. This court has held that even when the prosecuting authority is not physically present, this requirement is met when law enforcement agents state they are acting with the express authority from a government agent. And they cite the case law. And Officer Drew telephoned the prosecutor in the presence of Krebs, and after ending each of their phone call, represented to Krebs that the prosecutor had no problems with charging him with Class D felonies and running them concurrently. And making this statement to Krebs, Officer Drew communicated that he was acting with the prosecutor's authority. The more difficult question is whether Krebs made his statement in the course of a plea discussion. And so they obviously the court adopted it, so they keep going on. Okay. All right. So this part here is okay. At the very least, it is clear that when Krebs began his interview with Officer Bell, he intended to negotiate his charges down to misdemeanors in exchange for cooperating with police and providing a statement. Krebs voluntarily went to the Graves County Sheriff's Office in order to discuss his relation with the victim and specifically asked to speak with prosecuting attorney several times in order to make a deal. Thus, Krebs had an actual subjective expectation to negotiate a plea and satisfies the first prong of the analysis. And then they say this case, however, it is less clear whether Krebs' expectation was reasonable given the totality of the objective circumstances. All right, and it goes on. After carefully reviewing the tape statement, we believe that it was reasonable for Krebs to expect that he and the Commonwealth were negotiating a plea based on the totality of circumstances, even though Officer Drew originally stated that he could not promise Krebs anything and that the prosecutor would have had to make the ultimate decision. Later in the interview, Officer Drew informed Krebs that the prosecutor had made a decision about what felonies he would be charged with. Officer Drew unequivocally represented to Krebs that the prosecutor had no problem reducing Krebs' charges to Class D felonies and running them concurrently. Further, Officer Drew made this assurance immediately after speaking with the prosecutor on the phone in Krebs' presence. Thus, this is not the common scenario where the police simply encourage the defendant to give a statement with assurances that the defendant's cooperation will be viewed favorably by the prosecutor. Here, Krebs did not confess until Officer Drew spoke with the prosecutor on the phone and obtained his assurances that Krebs would be charged only with Class D felonies that would run concurrently. Based on the totality of the objective circumstance, it was reasonable for Krebs to expect that he was participating in a plea negotiation and that he would be charged with Class D felonies that would run concurrently if he confessed. Consequently, Krebs' statement was taken in the course of a plea discussion with the prosecuting authority and should have been excluded at trial. And pursuant to this, due to the fact that this statement was an important element in the Commonwealth's case and especially damaging to Krebs, this error cannot be deemed harmless. Therefore, Krebs' convictions must be reversed and the matter remanded for a new trial. So they did. The trial court did not err by refusing to allow Krebs a question about AS, a prior allegation of abuse, or by failing. So I believe this. Okay. Conclusion. Let's get to the conclusion. Although Krebs' claim of error regarding prior allegation of abuse is unavailing, Krebs is correct and his police statement should not have been excluded at trial because it was made in the course of a plea discussions with a prosecuting authority. Therefore, the October 16, 2007 judgment of the Gray Circuit Court is hereby reversed and the case is remanded for subsequent proceedings, not inconsistent with this opinion. So he got a chance to go back to trial. And then I guess what the outcome of this particular trial was, because in 2007, is that he went back to court and he was found guilty because he went to the prison in Kentucky until 2015. So this was the original case. That was the technicality case. But we need to look further into what the following case was after that. Okay. So that's this technicality, but we know he did go to prison. So this is where Ray says, but the fact that I think that he went in automatically trying to make a deal shows that he pretty much knew what he had done. And he obviously is trying to use a technicality, but I would think that most reasonable people faced in that situation would not automatically be talking about a plea deal. Most of us would be like, no, I did not do that. But he was very willing, and his claims of because of poverty aren't necessarily the case. We know he had all this money. Did he not want to defend himself? That's the question I have. I guess not, because he obviously probably knew he was guilty, I'm thinking. So we'll look for the following parts where they decided that, nope, you are remaining. And this technicality was, I think, did not hold in the end. So, but that's the story because I wanted to share Mr. Gibbs. Okay, let's share Mr. Gibbs now. All right, here we go. Let me share this tab instead. Here we go. Okay. So this is the Hardin County Independent. This is out of the state of Illinois. This is the obituary of Dennis Eugene Gibbs. Eugene's shockingly the same name as Mr. Krebs's father, the middle name. This is the boyfriend of the romantic partner of Mr. Raymond Krebs. He's no longer with us. He passed away on January the 21st, 2025. So if Mr. Krebs probably felt lonely, it's probably because of the death of Mr. Dennis Eugene Gibbs. He was 71 years and 6 days. It was with great sadness that we announced the death of my brother, Dennis Eugene Gibbs of Fulton, Kentucky. Dennis was born in Rosie Clare, Illinois on January the 12th, 1954 to his proud parents, Harry Weldon Gibbs and Blanche Emmeline Reed Gibbs. He was 71 years and 6 days of age at his passing on Saturday the 18th, 2025. So think about with Ray's channel and him talking about being sad and lonely. I'm a smart lady to keep up with this great work. Well, I don't know. I was fighting some of the screens earlier because I have too many files and I need to put it back together a little bit better. But I wanted to get this stream out. And once I put out a 2025 obituary, I knew people were going to try to figure out other sleuths on the internet. What other things? Give me a like in the comments just to keep boosting me up, guys. And I know this is a lot of this is a very much an informational live stream today. People are like, why do you live stream stuff for so long? Because this is true crime investigation over here. Okay, so Dennis was raised on a farm outside of Elizabethtown. He graduated from Cave and Rock High School in 1971. In the fall of 1971, he began his schooling to become a nurse. Well, we share something in common, except I found out, I think that, I don't know if he was a registered nurse, LPN, I'm not sure. Somewhere, I don't know if the court case, I want to say they said he was a licensed practical nurse somewhere in the court case. But I could be wrong. After finishing his training, he went to work at Hardin County General Hospital. He also worked at the VA in Marion, Illinois, and Southern Illinois Hospice Care. He was a nurse for over 30 years. Well, you didn't do a very nice job with taking care of that little girl. Dennis was preceded in death by his parents, Harry W. Gibbs and Blanche Emmeline Gibbs. He is survived by his brother, his nieces, his family. Okay. I'm not going to try to dox all those people. Okay. So very much here. Okay. He's mentioning all these fans. He was also survived by his 3 nephews, who he dearly loved. Dennis had many friends, including 2 very close friends in Fulton, Kentucky, Marcia Johnson and Raymond Krebs. Right here. That was his close friend, was Raymond Krebs. What's he going to prove? Oh, they're trying to say something. They give a discrepancy in the name. No, his mother had other children from another marriage. His father had only had the one marriage with the 3 children. The 3 brothers, I believe. So, but we have all of them here, so we can take a look at their obituaries. But the mother had a second marriage. So that's why he's got some, half siblings and stepsisters and so forth. But this is Mr. Gibbs here. Okay. So, and Jeanette Oxford of St. Louis and Diane Reed Vaughn. So right up until 2025, obviously Raymond Krebs was still very important in the life of Mr. Dennis Gibbs, where his wife, Renee, still alive, That's not the person I think is talking about having passed away and died. This is just my opinion only. I think the person that he's sad about having passed away is Mr. Dennis Gibbs, his close friend. Renee is still kicking well alive, and I don't think he or Renee are together. They're not divorced because obviously probably they don't care. You think I'm right? So, but I just want to make sure, because I'm sure like all of the people that come to the audience, they're all trying to say that this man was just, had this girl flirt with him and how bad. But I just wonder how they're going to feel to think that he had this very long and close relationship with Mr. Dennis Gibbs, who confessed in court that he was romantically involved with Mr. Raymond Krebs. How, obviously Mr. Gibbs was not married, did not have children. And like I said, I'm not shaming anybody, but I think the hypocrisy is going to be very real. And so I think, he definitely was sad, but he's not sad because Renee is dead. He was sad because Dennis died. That's my thought. And I'm sorry for his loss on that. But it seems like he probably manipulated Dennis. He manipulated Renee. And he certainly manipulated that victim. And then he tried to manipulate the police because he straight went in for a plea deal. And that's not the act of an innocent person. Anybody who works in law enforcement is going to tell you. The only reason why you walk in and ask for a plea deal, and it's not because he did not have money for a defense. He had an insurance payout. He had a houseboat. You don't think he had businesses. You don't think he could have, got money together? When he talks about losing an income, any income I can think that he lost was Dennis's income. I think that's the only income that he lost. So this is the gentleman that defended Mr. Krebs. This was the household disciplinarian. This is the one that said the victim was walking around naked. So that's him. That's the person I think that is really the one that he's saddened about. And then they mention obviously some other folks here that were friends of his. And then, some people were saying sorry for his loss. I don't know Mr. Gibbs, but I think trying to blame shift a child when he was a mandated reporter is really bad. But that thinking of the dynamic that Mr. Gibbs was Mr. Krebs's romantic partner, kind of the toxicity and the jealousy that was probably happening. And then Ray manipulating all these people to be like, his little, everyone thought Ray was special. Renee defended him in from the bed, even after this, she introduced this man into this other family after they lost the patriarch of the grandfather. So Renee was the one who introduced Mr. Krebs into this family and all of this dysfunction that went along with it. Because I'm sure that he was probably still seeing Mr. Gibbs. And obviously you can't be very open in a place like Kentucky in 2005. So, but obviously Mr. Gibbs was very open and honest that he was living with him romantically when he moved in. And they were still very close friends right up until 2025. So I think that's the person he's sad about. That's the boyfriend. He is no longer with us. The wife is still alive. 62 years old, living in Paducah, Kentucky. Okay. So here's the mother's obituary. People wanted to see all these different names. Ruth is survived by her husband, Gene Krebs. 7 sons. So maybe she had a marriage before she met Gene. Okay. Edward Denham, David Leonard, Timothy Finney, Jesse Finney. So obviously somebody with different last names. So his mom obviously maybe had a couple of marriages in there, not to shame her, and because these sons have different names. So she was with Raymond's dad when she passed away. So obviously she had earlier marriages, which is why Ray has so many different siblings. Okay, we don't want to dox these people. We're not going to go out to these. Now, this Dawn Comley, I want to say I saw a Dawn somewhere with Ray's stuff. So, but these, I believe, were his half sisters. These are not full sisters. One brother, you know. So, it says Krebs Jr., Michael Krebs, and Raymond Krebs, 2 daughters, Rosanna Lee and Dawn Clumley. But we don't see anything when we take a look at, let me take this down. The father's obituary. Did I bring that down? I might have taken it down already. Sorry about that, guys. I don't think the father's obituary mentioned that at all. I did. I think, let me see if I can bring up that obituary again, just to try to show you all the complexity of the family. Let me see. I can't see it in my history. Here we are. Okay. All right. So here we see 2 sons, Raymond and Mike, several great-grandchildren, and then preceded in death by his parents, his wife, and the son, Eugene. So we don't see him having had, we don't see a daughter listed here to Raymond, like a daughter with him and Ruth. There's no mention of the full sister. So whatever sisters that Ray had, oh, sorry, guys. Sorry, I'm talking away, not adding on the stage. It's me. So whatever sisters that Ray has are not his full sisters. They're going to be half or step sisters. Well, obviously, you know, some could be step sisters because, you know, well, they'd have to be half sisters, I'm guessing, because she stayed with Ray's dad. So these would have been kids beforehand. And so any of them would have been her half children. So this was a later relationship. So, you know, because the dad had been in the military, so maybe they didn't meet, and, you know, whoever. What about Jeb? Oh, well, we're going to go to Jeb right now because we finished everything about Ray. Okay. So Renee is alive. Dennis, the boyfriend, is deceased. And Jeb and Ray has turned off his comments. And we still need to follow up with whatever followed. The first time I saw him do the compulsive gummy in one video, he's nervous. Yeah. Well, it's you. Wouldn't you be nervous? I just don't. He's just that sweet YouTube coin. I just don't understand because he loves to manipulate people. He can't stop. He's escalating the manipulation to a YouTube platform. That's what I just find so interesting. Yes, there's 3 yes, we know criminal 3 felony convictions. Well, we know through the court cases and we know through just my research, there are definitely 3 felonies. And he even mentioned about 2 felonies in the court case. So 3 we know of. Now, whether he's committing any further perpetration of his probation is another question that the law has to decide, not us, you know. We could just take a look at how he's manipulated his audience. But whether he had some petty larcenies that he never got caught for prior to that, oh, I'm sure, because it escalated over time, the way his crimes happened and just the level of manipulation. I mean, just going straight into asking for a plea deal is just, you know, if anybody's an actual law person, I'd rather you say about that. This is not legal advice. I'm just breaking down from how I read it. And, you know, trying to take out because the language of the law is very specific. So it's just more just trying to show that his story is not matching the narrative of that he has shared with his audience. Everything was a script, you know, and he probably learned, you know, he just kind of gave that little old man off vibe that people just, you know, people want to, you know, because maybe their grandpa wasn't that good, you know, so they want that grandpa, or it's another senior and they feel like they're connecting, not realizing that he's manipulating all of these people. It's just the manipulation is huge for the money and stuff. He got that Stormore company to put that shed on his property. He was running like an ad with them. So goodness knows what the agreement was for him to have the shed and to have the ad. So obviously there was a deal with the company of some sort, you know, to have an influencer, to have a channel that size and put your company out there. Might have even gotten that shed for free. And Stormore has since taken down all of the advertisement that they had on their Facebook and any indication with Mr. Krebs. They took it all down. They don't want to have anything to do with it. So anyway, all right, guys, this is the last thing I'm going to share. Oh, I missed it. Okay, I don't have a lot of this. Okay, here we go. Mr. Jeb has quite the long history, guys. So I don't know if we should be believing all the stuff that he says. Jeb says he built that shed. No, there was a company that came and delivered it. Stormore. That company delivered that shed. Yes, please hit the likes. Ray, did he say he took a plea deal after the first trial? So there wasn't a second trial? I don't know, because he said he got out on a technicality. But from what I can see in this case law, they decided that I think it went to a retrial and then he was found guilty. So the first time it went through, that was the one that did not happen. Police statement should have been excluded at trial because it was made in the course of a plea discussion with the prosecuting authority. Therefore, the October 16th, 2007 judgment of the Grave Circuit Court was hereby reversed, and this case is remanded for subsequent proceedings not inconsistent with this opinion. So after the reversed court judgment, it had to go further, and I believe that Mr. Krebs said that he took another plea. Because he didn't want to pay for attorneys again. So he took another plea. That's what happened. Oh, it showed guys, but yeah, well, that would have been the Stormore people put the shed together. Probably the company that delivered it was putting that shed together because they're the ones that had the advertisement with him. It was a company called Stormore. All right, so here's Ben. Bless his heart. Benjamin Reese Robinson. This photo was taken on the 23rd of February 2017. I haven't had a chance to investigate what they were all for, but he has a lot of mugshots. So they got the Department of Corrections. This was 22 years old in 2017. He's now 31. So he's not, this was something that we pulled out today. Okay. He weighs, that was his blonde hair, blue eyes. Okay. These are all his different mugshots, guys. This is all his arrest pictures here. We've got an arrest dating back from 11/29/17. Oh, sorry. Yeah, then Allen, that's the town, I guess, where he was, because these are all the different counties. Allen County, Nelson, Graves, McCracken, all these different places, okay? That's not the name of the person. Here he is in 1/30/18, his arrest photo. And we got one here, 2/13/19. So he's a very young guy. He was getting himself. He looks old as heck in 21. Shoot. Here he is in 17. So that was one of his earlier arrest pictures. So that's probably one of his first arrest pictures. So he had an arrest starting in February 23rd, 2017 was his first arrest. I need to take a look and actually find out what these cases. I would need to probably go to each of these areas, put in his name. So he was 23 here, 22 on his first arrest. 23, 23, 24, 24, 27. So he's been having quite an extensive yeah, oh yeah, that's his mug, that's Jeb's mugshot. This is Jeb. This is all his different arrest pictures. So he's got 6 arrests that we can see here. The shed building. So there he was there. Well, he was there, but he wasn't building the shed. He was just filming somebody else. I know I've seen Jeb cutting down to help Craig clear them. Well, I'm not saying he wasn't trying to help Ray out. I mean, who knows if they were, I don't think he was in jail at the same time as Ray. So I don't think they met in jail because that's not what I'm seeing here. These are all after Ray would have come out of jail. So he never could have met Ray in a prison system. Ray was out of the prison system in 2015. He didn't go into the like getting his mugshot until 2017. But obviously, you know, if you're probably birds of a feather will flock together, guys, as they say. So I'm just thinking here that there's a lot more to find out about Jeb. So I would suggest that anybody who comes across this channel takes the time to listen, watch, disseminate the information and decimate it too. You can obviously, we'll be taking a further look to see what these actual cases were. You can't believe Jeb. I would not trust Jeb. Not with, I mean, I think that product he's trying to sell, actually, that clean green is actually probably a decent product. I don't know if this company is going to want their name associated with this person anymore. Because the product actually looks decent. You know, I love anything that's, you know, local, environmental, you know, supporting small businesses, trying to find other things. I'm all supportive of that. You know, I think that's an awesome thing to promote and support. You know, I'm not saying you know, he is still a young man. I don't want to shame him about these pictures at all. I do believe that if his crimes, I don't know what the crimes are, if it's just drugs or something, I'm not going to hold anybody harshly for that. So I don't know. I don't know what these crimes were. So until we know, I certainly don't want to just shame people with arrest records. I know people think I do that with Ray. Ray's case is a little bit different. Okay. Because he's got all these felony convictions and stuff. He looks like he was having a rough time. So you know, depending on what his actual crimes are, I do believe that we do need to try to help people, you know, find better ways to get back into society and build their lives and not let them have to fall back into the criminal system. I really do believe in supporting people. I don't feel like marginalizing people like that. You know, I'm kind of in a place with Jeb that I don't know what his intentions are, what his crimes exactly are. And so my maternal instincts want to come out a little bit and protect people, even criminals sometimes. Ray's crimes are too much for me, though, and the way he tries to manipulate everybody around him. So, like I said, until we find out a little, 6 arrests is never good. It's not. But looking at his pictures and stuff, you know, I'm kind of thinking if I'm seeing somebody under the influences of substances. And so if these are DUIs or drug arrests, you know, I certainly would want somebody to get the actual real, you know, help to try to take care of those addictions, because addiction is a really horrible thing. And so I do feel like when crimes are created by like substance use, that we need to have better ways of helping people address those issues instead of just, you know, criminalizing them, putting them in a system and making them further into a criminal. So I have a lot of compassion if they do have, you know, substance use issues and we're not really helping people out. Now, alcoholics are people I sometimes don't. If there's DUIs and stuff involved, then I start to think, well, you're doing stuff and you're on top of it, you're making a bad decision that could kill somebody. So it's really going to depend on the nature of what I see and kind of the psychological profile, and seeing whether this is just somebody who's young, not from a great circumstance, just falling into the system. Or we got people who have, better lives, or adults maybe making decisions later in life due to substance use. And that's a different issue then to me. Maybe Jeb and Ray are lovers. Well, I don't know that. I don't have the receipts for that. Jeb says he was in love with somebody. Maybe, he was feeling that Ray was more of a father figure. Maybe he thought Ray was a father figure. Who knows? Ray seemed like he was building a whole community out there. Let's go back to Ray so we don't just... I know, but there you go, guys. Jeb does have quite an extensive criminal past. We don't know what crimes yet. I haven't had a chance to get in and start to look through stuff in Kentucky yet. That's going to take me some time to do that. So that's something, like I said. So until we know further about what Jeb has done, I wouldn't, I'm not going to try to but I do want to let people know that he does have a criminal past in order to be very cautious about sending donations. And because I understand he's trying to create a new channel. And I think that sometimes, like I said, it's going to be a viewer's decision to support. But I think people do want to know if people do have a history of a criminal past, because it does unfortunately show a pattern of behavior. And, it's tough, because you do want to give young people a better chance for the future. And sometimes I think the systemic issues in this country, we don't give our young people sometimes. And so I think greater conversations could come out of it. So like I said, I need to look further at that. It's like with Ray. With Ray, I'm seeing a pattern of a malignant narcissist who is definitely in control, definitely lying about his narrative. Jeb's like crying, talking like his long rap sheet and stuff. So it's, I think I just wonder what things Ray did say to manipulate him, because I'm getting really weird emails from somebody trying to warn me away from talking about this case. I got some weird... Catherine knows about the weird emails. Oh, they got weirder, Catherine, last night. I didn't follow up with you, girl, because I was running out of time, but it got really weird last night. Because we obviously have the other weird going on, but this weird got really weird. And I'll share them one day, but I had a series of some very strange emails coming to me yesterday. And then they came with some threats. And then I basically said, you must be lonely without Dennis. And then I didn't hear anything back. So it got very strange, but kind of the crux of it is that Jeb was trying to get into, the will, Ray Krepp's will. That's what they were trying to say, that Jeb was manipulating Ray to get into his will. And the only person that I really see is probably being the big manipulator, class A, is Ray. Ray, who switched off his comments. Oh, God, yes, absolutely Twin Peaks weird. It went off, girl. Oh, I'm going to be busy with it, but we'll catch up on it, These videos about Ray popping up are like crazy. Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, well, of course, because people on the YouTube and just, everyone's going to do it. They're going to make commentary. And then there's going to be people who are obviously able to see the information that I have shared this evening. Jeb's mugshots, obviously the obituary of the boyfriend who's now deceased, the wife who is still alive with a public record stating that she's still alive. And we're going to find out more, guys. I'm going to be doing some interesting things in the background. obviously didn't Jeff say yesterday all of his crime was way back when he was 18? Well, yes, he did. But and obviously that's not the case. His last one was in 2021, which was 5 years ago, and he would have been 27. So that's a full-on lie. Well caught. 27 was his last crime. So it was not when he was 18. And the first crime started when he was 22. So it was more from 22 to 27 were his the years of his crime. So that's why I say, you have to be very careful. These people are very good at lying. So, it got weird last night. So, yeah. So, very good catch. All right, guys. The young couple. Oh, yeah. That's, until you've got to get a lot more details about people. So, everything I'm sure over time we'll be finding out more and more about whatever. I mean, somebody's been, I don't want to use that term, but somebody has been cracking me up in Ray's comment section. We'll do that another time because I've already been 2.5 hours. I have screenshots that Ray had given on his last video, and that stated that he was going to be making a video before he switched his comments off. So I have all of those screenshots still saved because there were some interesting things in that. We're going to take a look to find out a little bit more with Jeb and his background, since he's obviously not being transparent with the community. He is saying that his crimes were at 18. We now know that's not the case. It was up to 27. And so that's getting up there. Oh, gosh. Well, that poor kid Karma. I feel for the child. I have no idea. Well, who knows if they're not from a, I don't ever want to say. They do look similar, but there is a thing about people who look similar being attracted to one another. So I don't ever want to say that isn't just part of human attraction. It's just by sheer coincidence because that they look the same. Who knows? I hope it's, not something completely deliverance going on. Yes, that I know. He just does. Please report. Oh, well, I promise you, if it escalates any further, I would. But I promise you, the way I responded, I doubt it. They were trying to threaten me with legal action, and I reminded them that in 23 days, I'm taking another creator to trial who has tried to silence my channel because they don't like me doing investigative things about finding out about their actual real backgrounds while they, purport themselves to be all these great people. Most of them are criminals. Most of them are high school dropouts. It's just, there's a whole ton of them. And it's so interesting because if I were to sit just here in my condo and start pontificating about, my life, because I'm not somebody who came from an advantaged background. And these people, as far as a lot of these creators, especially somebody like Ray and stuff, they're not much older than I. And so when they always talk about these mistakes that need to be forgiven, I question myself, if I was a female with the same mistakes, would I be so forgiven? Is there a double standard in who we forgive and who we don't forgive when it comes to mistakes? And then, I kind of, think about the fact that instead of me, getting DUIs or committing felonies or not paying child support or not going to school or dropping out of school or shoplifting or doing any of these things that they call just, little mistakes. I was a child of a teenage mother. I was taken to a foreign country. I was born in the US. Obviously, that's not my accent. So I obviously grew up somewhere else in the UK. I then it wasn't from a well-to-do family. I got myself into the university in the UK. I went to the #1 university in the United Kingdom for education and took my teaching degree, which is the University of Hertfordshire. Look it up. It's the top teaching college university in the UK to study to be a teacher. Took my Bachelor of Education with honors there, moved to Mexico, taught in a bilingual school, met somebody and married, studied Spanish at the advanced level. So sí como no hablo español como mexicana. I speak a second language, lived in Mexico, moved back to London, moved back to Mexico, worked in publishing, moved to the United States where my family is originally from after my divorce. I'm telling a little bit about me just so you can see all my mistakes. Divorce, came to the US, worked, went back to school, trained to become a registered nurse. So I hold 2 college degrees. I'm a teacher, and I am a registered nurse with a Bachelor of Science in Nursing. And I purchased a condo. Never remarried again. Don't have kids. Just work hard, take care of pediatric patients as an RN. But I'm supposedly a mean and nasty person. And all I do is work hard. But I do appreciate the support with this channel, all the likes, comments, subscribes, anything like that. It helps me. My mission, like I said, protect the kids, protect vulnerable adults. I am just grateful for the audience and being able to have this opportunity to come out. Yes, I am a monetized channel. I am a business, and I'm proud to say that. I'm not ashamed that I'm a business. I'm not ashamed that my business is able to take care of my rescue pit bulls, calling out child predators and just deadbeat dads and people who just manipulate audiences on the internet. And so I'm happy to take the jingle jangle. And I appreciate you guys for helping me do it too, because my mission at the end of the day is just my work with my dogs. So, and I know they all have dogs, but my dogs are not on camera. So I'm not using my dogs as a prop. But everyone hears them always in the background. So if you ever hear like dog wrestling, like a noise, that's because I have pit bulls and they are a wrestle dog breed. So when they get happy and want to play, they start to wrestle right here in the living room next to me. So that's what you'll hear in the background. So yes. Yes, all of my dogs were adopted. About like getting her wisdom teeth. Oh, I know. She was walking barefoot. And the thing is, I actually would never allow somebody to come barefoot into a medical facility. That is nasty. They should have put some booties on that girl's feet. And I'm sorry. That is so disrespectful. Just bringing all those germs through. I know they're on the shoes, but my goodness. I'm so glad, Ann. We got new people to talk about. I know we will go back to Tim. We will do a Tim. And I'm going to do it as a members only. And then I'm going to release the members only probably a week later to the public for anybody who wants to see that Sarasota Tim. So we go members only. It's an ad-free experience. We talk about Sarasota Tim. Then probably a week later, what I'm going to start doing with some of the members only is I will release them, but they will be monetized to the public, just to let you guys know. Because it all goes to the puppies. Not on YouTube. Women are not given. Yes, I know. Women are not given much grace. You are absolutely right, the Melvis. We really are not. I am held to a much higher standard. I don't want to even put my face on a thumbnail. There's one guy who's literally sitting out there, trying to criticize other creators and call us like all morons. And I don't think that any of the research that I do is anything moronic. And this person has been victim blaming a child. And that's the only moronic thing that I hear. And then he said, well, if you see all these girls on TikTok nowadays, they wear all these clothes and stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, why is a grown man got teenage girls on his TikTok feed? And why are you looking at teenage girls on TikTok in the first place? You're obviously not there to police their wardrobe choices, are you? this is weird. I don't have little boys who are teenagers. I don't even really have TikTok. I don't have TikTok. So why are grown men looking at teenage girls on TikTok, hey? That's the broader question. Disgusting, vile perverts is what I think. Not men trying to police women. Oh, police women's bodies, police what women say, police how we make money, gatekeep my content. I get it all, ladies. I promise you. Especially now that I've kind of entered this sort of like investigative space, which I've always loved to do. But yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's been a great live. Yeah, well, we need to. I hopefully some people will start to pick up on this with the stolen valor. They can't handle a real woman. No, they cannot, especially one who's educated. That really makes them stressed out because I am somebody who protects my channel too. Because another creator, if you're not familiar with me and you're new to my channel, has tried to take my channel down with false DMCA strikes. That's why I'm 23 days to trial. And this person tried really hard to take my voice that criticizes his medical misinformation and his just absolute garbage that he's done with the seniors and stuff and stealing people's property. It's a lot. I'm not telling it all. But literally, this person weaponized the copyright system here on YouTube. I counter notified every single one. All of my videos were restored. And he continued to strike my channel even after legal cease and desist from my attorneys and so forth. And I finally said at the beginning of this year, that's it. I'm bringing you to court in Virginia Beach. It's not a federal case. There's actually a business tort case for the malicious use of the copyright system because he never followed up in federal court. So I definitely work hard to protect my channel and protect the voice of small creators. And so because I've sort of, am strong about that, people actually think I'm a mean bully. Yeah, I do speak the truth. That wasn't too nice. Oh, yeah. Oh, because Carl's upset and I don't care. And I'm not going to speak about him. He crossed the line and that's all I'm going to say. And he can just keep being upset because he's going to bury himself. He's going to go the Sarasota Tim route. Yeah, you can always buy us a coffee too. There we go. I put the buy us a coffee because there's all these different people. Oh, we'll talk about people with their membership tiers and how much they charge. I have one membership tier. I think it's like $3.99 a month or $4.99. YouTube put me up. There are creators who have 3 tiers and will get a super chat and say, oh, I'll give that to the dog rescue. Well, I want to actually see a tax receipt that those super chats are going to a dog rescue. I don't want you just telling us it's going to a dog rescue. I actually want to see your filing because I'm happy to share the filing of my tax paper, at least the form that I had when I sent money for a charity that I raised money through my channel for the breast cancer research association. So we did a fundraiser here and I had that money, and I showed online how I was sending that donation in and I have the tax paperwork to show that I legitimately made that donation to that charity. But when a creator is just saying, oh, that's going to go to the dog rescue, I actually would like to see the tax receipt for that because otherwise that's just manipulating people, in my opinion. So I just yes, your channel's #1 on YouTube. Very smartly, you did great with your life. Oh, well, I don't think I'm #1 on YouTube, but I would love to be #1. And I'd love all of my smart audience members here. And we should never keep our voices quiet. And we should certainly protect our victims, Guardian of Valor's videos about stolen valor situations. Yes, I looked at Dawn Shipley and stuff. I don't know if that's going to work with Ray because Ray's such a manipulator. He could probably lie his way out of a paper bag. So we've already got the proof that Ray wasn't in the military. So there really isn't he has, and he said it was. So it's really up to a federal case. And because I've spoken to people in law enforcement in Kentucky about the stolen valor, I'll let you know. And what I've been informed by Kentucky State Police is that a stolen valor case is a federal case. So that is not a state case. So anything that would have to happen under that particular statute has to be taken federally. So somehow, because there's enough evidence that he claimed, and it has to be for specific reasons like gaining financial manipulation, like getting a VA loan or something, And obviously, if he is found to have used his channel and his military, stolen valor in order to have financial gain, then potentially there could be a federal case. But there's very clear things, about that, and the government is going to be very clear before you got Pekingese. Oh my God, the Pekingese was like the favorite small dog in the UK when I was growing up and as a child. Everyone had Pekingese. Yeah, they had the likes. We don't have Minnie? Oh, Minnie, thanks. Thank you, Kath. Why aren't we given the chance to hype your videos? Oh, if it's a live stream, I think it's only on certain, I think you can only hype when it's on a mobile device. I think that's why. I think the hypes are only mobile devices. I don't think I don't think they're on the, if you're on a TV or a laptop or anything. But later on, if you get on a mobile device and want to give me a hype, I certainly appreciate it. But I don't know if they're different for live streams to videos either. So that would be something that would be probably after it's processed and uploaded, it might allow for that. You don't think they've made a video in over a year? Who was that? I'd probably say I was talking. Oh, no, I'm like, who's that? Oh, the Stolen Valor channels. Oh, okay. Thank you. I know I saw one from Dawn Shipley the other day shouting at someone about being a Navy SEAL. I don't know how, like I said, I don't know how it would do with Ray. Ray's quite the manipulator. Actually, because of a law where merely representing a veteran. Oh, interesting. Well, because the Kentucky State Police told me they couldn't get him under that. Interesting. Maybe they're not feeling like they have enough evidence for that one, because they told me that would have to go federal. In Alabama, you can do, videos from other channels. Oh, well, people can always hide them. Interesting. Well, I also tried to tell them about Senate Bill 249, and they didn't seem to want to follow through on that one either. From what I understand, for that to come through, okay, this is what I understand from the police. Even though these are here, something would have to come through to make the officers there have to arrest him. Us just saying it's something has to come through, like an order or something. Unless they can see, for example, the thing that we thought was a gun was an air rifle. Though Jeb says he has lots of guns, and I'm sure he does. It was an air rifle that we actually was the thing that was there. Not an actual rifle. In India last year. Oh, well, we know New Zealand doesn't, New Zealand, everyone has to have a participation trophy. We're all equal. See, we can even make fun of ourselves. Yes, the military could shut down his channel and charge him. Right. That would be nice, And like I said, I think they have to get an order to do something about it. So something would have to come. I don't know how, because I promise I'm sure they are getting inundated with calls down in Kentucky. Let me put it this way. Those poor people in Kentucky at the moment. All right, guys. I still have to follow up with Tim. I've got other investigative work we're doing. Like I said, if you get a chance to give us a like on the way out, please do so. Everyone have a lovely evening. I've kept your time for too much time. I'm going to be criticized enormously for having an almost 3-hour live stream. How can that woman talk for people, there are so many channels that every day these men podcast and talk for hours, and nobody says, how dare you do that? But for me, oh my goodness, it's wild. Literally people telling me I shouldn't be speaking. The policing of female content on YouTube is wild. So it's just wild. Anyway, guys, cops are not attorneys. No, they're not. But they're supposed to talk to attorneys. So I promise you, I'm sure they're getting inundated down there. All right, guys, be careful with Jeb, okay? From what I can see, he's not been truthful about what his last arrest age was. Anything that Ray comes out with, we know the wife's alive, the boyfriend is deceased, and he did not serve in the military. And the whole entire Offended Outcast, that whole brand is just an illusion. All right, guys, we'll catch you on the next one. Be safe on the internets out there, okay? Protect yourselves. Don't let these people get to you. All right. Appreciate it. Take care. Bye.
Life and Vibe, thanks so much. My queen, my Sarasota Tim expert.